you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the window.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, busy show, especially right at the top. Eldridge Recasner is going to join us, the former NBAer. He was a prime-timer when he played at Washington, a Hall of Famer at Washington. And I would call it a part of the Big Ten Network's West Coast Bureau, if you will, with Purdue going on the road in Eugene versus Oregon tomorrow. Eldridge Recasner joins us later on this hour. Bob Lovell is going to be on the show. Don Fisher live from Columbus, Ohio, before IU and Ohio State coming up later on this afternoon. And a lot more for you. I think Bobby Bucket's on the show as well from the Boilermaker Radio Network, so sit tight on that. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, I felt compelled to get him on. It's an off day, and I want him to be able to enjoy it. But after last night in Detroit, we saw the Pacers get that win, 111-100 over the Pistons. And when he was doing the interview on Pacers TV, the walk-off with Miles Turner, then the real fun started. Jeremiah Johnson's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So what the hell happened?
Well, first off, John, I must say I'm honored to join the show right off the top. Normally, I tune in at 3 o'clock and I get your take on the latest news and notes from around Indiana, and I get your first 20 minutes where we hear how the show's going to go, and so I'm guessing I'm going to set the stage.
You're going to set the tone, and I thought people out there don't want to wait for me to jack around to bibble-babble the entire time, so I'm going to get JJ on here right now to lay it out. We got something working here?
I think there is a little bit of bad blood. It was a really good Pacers performance. The Pistons were a little bit salty. I think the players for Detroit take after their coach because J.B. Bickerstaff has moved above Nick Nurse on my category of the coaches who complain about most calls during a game. And so not that the Pacers are innocent in this category. I want to make sure that's clear. The Pacers do their fair share at times of questioning, but I think there's another level sometimes, and it just creates this attitude and chippiness. And the Pacers are not shy about speaking their minds and talking during a game, and there are some teams that don't seem to like that. And so I did notice as the clock was winding down a little bit of a development there at midcourt. I'd already made the decision to interview Miles Turner, who was without a doubt the player of the game. And then I saw it kind of go towards the area where we were waiting for him to do the interview. And I could tell as I was interviewing Miles, he kept looking over to the side, and it was tough for me to really devote my attention to what was happening off camera because I had a job to do and questions to ask. And again, I'm not there to instigate or be a part of anything other than my job, which is to interview Miles. So I thought he did a good job of staying above the fray a little bit. You could tell he was frustrated. I think there was a little situation, whether it was a Pacers fan and, the Pistons assistant coaches, and then maybe just a little bit of bad blood. So I can't say with 100% certainty I know who was involved or what happened, and it was nothing that reached anything beyond shouting and words. So that's a good thing as well. So there's nothing else that really needs to be discussed like long term, but I do think there's going to be a little bit of bad blood. And then I went back and I watched some of the Pistons press conference after the game.
Yeah, and their head coach J.B. Bickerstaff is right there among them, pissing and moaning. Yeah.
So circle that one on your calendar. When the Pacers are back from Paris, that'll be the first game. And sometimes you worry about a trip like that, where the first game back, maybe there's a little bit of a letdown. I do not expect that whatsoever. I think you want to get your tickets for Pacers-Pistons at Gainbridge Fieldhouse at the end of the month.
Jeremiah Johnson, of course, you get the Pacers in Philly tomorrow night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. An off day for the Pacers today. JJ's from Pacer TV on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So people were saying it was sparked with something regarding Siakam that went on early in the game. Were you privy at all to any of that being at Little Caesars last night?
So he was very effective in the first half, as everyone saw. And there was a couple of times where he hit a shot, and sometimes a guy on the bench will say something like, that's not going in or whatever. And so I did see at some point in the first half there was a little bit of back and forth. And so I'm guessing that spurred Pascal on a little bit in the first half. So thanks to whoever on the bench, whether it was Isaiah Stewart or perhaps someone else, whoever had something to say, that if that motivated Pascal, so be it. And I think he remembered it. And so then you saw as the Pacers were dribbling the clock out, there was a little bit more conversation going. And how crazy is it when you see Pacers-Pistons the last couple of years? The one rivalry I think of is Benedict Mathurin and Jaden Ivey. And Mathurin wasn't there, and Jaden Ivey, we know, unfortunately, is injured and suffered that broken leg. And so neither of those two players, who have a little bit of an individual rivalry, were on the court. And I didn't realize there was really any kind of previous bad blood between anyone with Detroit or Indiana. So who knows? Pascal's been at this for a long time. I'm guessing that at some point, maybe someone on that Detroit team he had a little bit of an incident with. I don't know specifically what was said. So it definitely was something where emotions were running high early, kind of calmed down. It was just basketball. But I think there was some real frustration with Detroit with the way the Pacers were physical. I mean, they were just getting after them, similar to what you saw last weekend in Cleveland. When they put the ball on the hardwood, the Pacers were active hands. They were knocking it away. 13 first-half turnovers for. So I'm going to chalk it up to a little bit of frustration from the Detroit side of things. The Pacers were feeling themselves a little bit, and sometimes that can be the combination can result in what you saw.
Well, that was the difference in the game last night with the turnovers. I mean, 19-9, you can't turn it over at home or away 19 times and expect to win anything. So that was the issue. And, yeah, I have noticed here recently, it looks like somebody has hard targeted these teams that love to, like, live and die, if you will, or live and fall in love with the dribble. And they're attacking that a lot more often, JJ, than I can remember.
What that does is, maybe you don't get every turnover, but it just gets you in that mindset where you're on your toes and you're not on your heels. And when the Pacers are forcing the issue defensively, they're such a better team than when they pack it in. And I would say that goes for all levels of basketball. When you're aggressive defensively, maybe you'll make a mistake here or there, but I'd rather make a mistake out of aggressiveness than one out of laziness or just kind of sitting back and waiting for something to happen. So if you're aggressive, if you're going after things, good things will happen. You're physical. And we know with how the NBA is being officiated lately, you're not going to get those calls when you're physical in the perimeter,
right? Unless
there's a real, altering of the play or you do something that directly results in a turnover. So if you're just playing, your hands are showing, you're in position, and you get a little physical, you're going to get the benefit of the doubt more often than not. They're not trying to blow the whistle every time down the court, despite what J.B. Bickerstaff was asking for. So that aggressive mindset defensively is really helping this team. And we keep updating the numbers. In the month of January, I haven't looked today, but last night they were fourth in defensive rating in January, and their season number continues to improve. We've said for 2 or 3 years, John, if they could just get middle of the pack defensively with their offense, they would be how they want to be. And they're getting close to middle of the pack right now.
Yeah, they're dictating terms is what I like to call it. That's what they're trying to do, I think, oftentimes now defensively that I can't remember. And we're also watching Jarris Walker really kind of step into his own right now. JJ, you guys hit the airwaves tomorrow at 6:30. No Joel Embiid for the Sixers, correct?
No Joel Embiid, and I just saw the updated injury report for Philadelphia. Paul George is listed as questionable with, I believe, groin tightness. So we'll see whether Paul George is able to play. It looks like Andre Drummond, who has not been playing recently, is listed as probable. And if he's playing, even at his advanced age and number of years in the game, he can get offensive rebounds as well as anyone. And
especially when he stands on the low post for the entire possession on both ends.
Exactly.
Yes. But he won't – listen, if he's guarding Miles, he won't have that opportunity to stand in the low post on the defensive end. But still, he spends a lot of time there, let's say.
I say bring on Drummond and let Miles continue to shoot those threes and stretch the floor.
You got it. Hey, spend time with the fam, man. Thanks for jumping on here. I was just kind of curious because your reaction was priceless last night, as was Miles when you're doing the walk-off and all that stuff started. And you kind of wondered if there was a bit of a sequel here with a rivalry between the Pistons and the Pacers, man. I guess we'll find out coming up on the 29th. But, JJ, we'll catch you again. JMV Takeover tomorrow night. So on your way home, you listen to the best of the 90s. We're going to have a blast with you on your way home after the game.
That sounds good. A lot of options to pick from in the 90s. So I'm saying right now, Pacers, Bucks, bad blood for sure.
Yes.
But Pistons moving up that list.
You got that. JJ, thanks, man. Have a great Friday.
Okay, thanks, John.
Jeremiah Johnson, Balia, check that. FanDuel Sports Network, Pacers TV, better said, of the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Quickly, we go now. First time on the show, I remember him as a player, both in the NBA and then collegiately at Washington. He is a Hall of Famer at UW, Pac-12 Hall of Honor, basketball analyst, Big Ten Network, NBC Sports, FS1. I call him a member of the Big Ten Network's West Coast Bureau. Eldridge Recasner joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. First-timer here in Indianapolis on the show, Eldridge. Thank you very much. How are you?
Thank you guys for having me, man. I appreciate it. I'm good.
I need to get a little bit of insight. How are you? How's everybody out there adapting to the schedule basketball-wise now that you have that Pac-12, what used to be formerly the representation of the Big Ten? How's that going to this point of the season for everybody, not just the teams themselves, but for those out there like you that cover the teams?
Yeah, it's a little tough. You know, normally if I have a game, I get there 2 hours before. But I was a fan the other night for a 6:30 tip-off, something we never had with the Pac-12 network. And traffic was just brutal, man. I ended up making it to the game at halftime.
Well, I think that's
a little bit of an adjustment.
And I think, and I was there one time, and I drove down with a group from Vancouver, and it was like a Sunday at 5, and I was still stuck in traffic. So I think that's something you guys get used to out there, is it not?
No, you never get used to it. I've been out here for 40 years, and I'm still not used to it, man. Yeah, but the early tip-offs, you know, obviously 6:30 West Coast time is 9:30 on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get the game in at a decent time for the fans on the East Coast. But for people that work, Seattle's a vibrant city, man, and a 6:30 tip-off is just really early. But I must say they had a great crowd for Purdue. It was just an awesome atmosphere. But for me as a fan, like I said, I ended up getting in there at halftime, and that wasn't fun.
Eldridge Recasner's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Were you surprised at the number of Boilermaker fans that were there in attendance for that game?
I was really shocked because I can understand if it was Washington State or Gonzaga or Seattle U local schools, but coming all the way from Indiana, man, I was completely shocked. But I guess coming off the Final Four and Big Zach Edey, you know, I thought they would have a little bit of buzz, but nothing like that. They were really, really loud. They showed up and they showed out for the Boilermakers.
A lot of new things going on in Washington. I want to get to that in a second and the rest of those teams out west that you cover. But what were your thoughts? Because you did see for the Boilermakers the best half, which was the second half. What stood out to you?
I just think they're disciplined. You know, they've been there before, so they didn't panic when they were down. They got a lot of depth. Washington is playing without their big man, Frank Kepnon. I think if he was in the game, maybe the Huskies could have pulled off the upset. Great Osobor was absolutely that. He was great, 5 for 5 from 3. But I just think Purdue's experience. You know, I had a chance to talk with Matt Painter after the game, and I just think their experience. They've been in those tough situations before, so they know how to react. They didn't panic. Braden Smith, man, he hit a huge shot late and kind of hushed the crowd. I thought that was pretty funny. But he was just showing his experience of being in those close games and making big plays and big moments.
Yeah, it's Eldridge Recasner joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hall of Famer from Washington, UW, and, of course, spent so much time in the NBA, which I want to get to. And in your area, Pacific Northwest and Seattle in general, lost a legend here in the past couple of days I want to discuss with you as well. But the Boilers on the way to Eugene, Oregon to take on the Ducks coming up tomorrow afternoon at 3. Little preparation for Boilermaker fans that are listening right now on what Matt Painter's team expects to see out of that group in Eugene tomorrow afternoon, Eldridge.
Yeah, Braden Smith is going to have his hands full with a sophomore named Jackson Shillstead, who's a fantastic guard, plays with a lot of confidence. That's going to be a tougher matchup for Purdue because Oregon is loaded. You know, I really expect Oregon to contend for the Big Ten championship. They got a big guy in the middle named Nate Biddle. 7-footer that can stretch the floor and shoot the three. But Jackson Shillstead, I think, is the guy that's really not afraid of the moment. If it comes down to somebody needing a big shot, he's a light like Braden Smith, even though he's just a sophomore. He's not afraid of the moment. And Dana Altman, the most underrated coach in America, in my opinion. A lot of people back your way probably don't know a lot about him since he's left Creighton, but he's been stuck out here in the Northwest, and all he does is win, man. I think he has 14 winning seasons in a row at the University of Oregon. I believe it's 20 overall. He's just a fantastic coach, and Matthew Knight Arena is one of the best arenas in the country. The students are back in school, so I think they're going to pack that thing with 11,000 people.
Man, loaded up and ready to go they should be. And I'm going to tell you, if Purdue can get a win there and then you get back, and have a home game, I think coming up on Tuesday, they position themselves here as we get towards the middle of the Big Ten campaign to really do some work. So what's been your thoughts of what you've seen from top to bottom of the Big Ten? Last night, we should recognize the fact that my friend Dusty May's Michigan team, they go to Minnesota and get upset on a last-second shot. So they were a team along with Michigan State and Illinois and Purdue at the top of the Big Ten. What's been your feel for the Big Ten the first time you've seen these former Pac-12 teams involved in this in basketball?
My feel has been it's going to be brutal. Every time you think you got it figured out, Maryland came to Washington a couple of weeks ago. They were hot, and the Huskies beat them, and that really surprised me. I've seen Illinois, I've seen Maryland, I've seen Purdue in person now. I've seen Michigan, and I got to tell you, I was shocked that Minnesota was able to beat Michigan because I think Michigan's got a lot of balance. With the big Danny Wolf, man, I tell you, out of all the guys, there's a lot of talk about Derek Queen. There's a lot of talk about Ace Bailey, Dylan Harbour. But that damn Danny Wolf, man, that 7 foot, handling the rock like that, could shoot it like that. I mean, I'm blown away by his skill set. But I just think it's going to be a brutal conference, man. Michigan State obviously is off to a great start. But, once you hit the road, it's going to be tough. So teams have to protect their home court and try to split on the road. So if Purdue can go to Oregon and get a win, that's going to be a huge statement game for them.
He is Eldridge Recasner, joins us from the Pac-12, former Pac-12, or Pac-10 back when he played standout, then Pac-12 Hall of Honor. He's a Hall of Famer at UW, former NBAers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You can catch him on the Big Ten Network, FS1, NBC Sports as well. There was a passing a couple of days ago, and to me, this was, when I was growing up, one of my favorite teams, and that would be the Seattle Supersonics of 1979, the NBA champions, and Gus Williams. Now, I know Gus went on to play elsewhere in Washington, I believe, but what did Gus Williams mean for your area in the Pacific Northwest?
Oh man, I thought first and foremost, may he rest in peace. Just a great guy. I think one of the most underrated and underappreciated players in the history of the NBA. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in that '79 championship series, Gus averaged 29 points a game at 6'2", man. He just was a straight out stud. I posted on Twitter, my dad used to always tell me that Gus could stop on a dime and lead change. He was just so loved and appreciated out here. And, I hope he knew that because Gus, like a lot of guys, Fred Brown stayed here, Slick Watts stayed here, Bill Russell stayed here, Lenny Wilkins stayed here after their playing and coaching days. But Gus went back east. But the only championship in basketball in the Sonics history, and it was led by Gus Williams. Just really sad, man. Only 71 years old. About 5 years ago, he had a stroke, really bad stroke, and he never recovered. So it's a huge loss for the Seattle community because, like I said, that backcourt with Gus Williams and Dennis Johnson, if your listeners out there are old enough, they know it's one of the greatest backcourts in the history of the NBA. NBA wasn't on TV back then like it is now, but Gus Williams was the real deal, man. And I didn't realize it, guys, but when I was a kid, I used to tie my shoelaces to the back. Like Gus Williams.
Yeah.
I completely forgot about it.
You ran it through the back of your heel, didn't you? Yeah, you ran it through the back of your heel. Yeah.
He was a trendsetter, yeah. A lot like Bernard King when he dropped 50 back-to-back with his fingers taped. Everybody wanted to lace their shoes to the back like Gus Williams, man. He just was a flat-out stud, obviously out of USC. It's just a sad day for Seattle.
Yeah, the 79 team was one of my favorites. I was 9 years old growing up, and I can remember, back then, as you mentioned, it wasn't easily found. I mean, you had to work to find it, and oftentimes, if not all the time, it was tape delayed late at night. But, between, those West Coast games or when they won the finals in 79, we're talking the Sonics, and, that was a heyday of the Suns, if you remember, too, back then, and Portland in 77 and that particular team. That was a hell of a great level of basketball right there, and the Sonics provided a great deal of that then.
Oh, yes, they did. You talk about the Blazers, so you're talking about the legend who passed away, Bill Walton, the Lakers. I mean, Gus Williams gave everybody the business. If you guys have Magic on the show, he gave Magic the work too. So he was just a stud, man. Of course, Jack Sigma, who went to college back you guys' way, another great player that was on that team, along with downtown Freddie Brown, who played at Iowa, Paul Silas. I mean, coached by the great Lenny Wilkins. It just was a fantastic time. And like I said, the only championship in the Sonics history, which, all the records now say Oklahoma City, which sucks. So I hope the NBA, when they do go to expansion, they bring the Sonics back.
Yeah. Is that the expectation out there at some point that Seattle does get another NBA team?
Yeah, I think everybody's thinking it's going to be Seattle and Las Vegas. At least that's what I hope. Yep.
Eldridge Recasner joins us. Before I let you go, I did want to mention your NBA career with a number of teams, including Denver, Houston, the Hawks, the Hornets, and the Clippers. Where was your most enjoyable stop, Eldridge?
I say my most enjoyable stop was the Atlanta Hawks playing for Lenny Wilkins because, I had a pretty significant role. But when I was with the Houston Rockets right off the back-to-back championship seasons, man, it was like traveling with the Jackson 5 of the Beatles. Everywhere we went, there was a crowd of people, and, of course, playing with Hakeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler was awesome. But what you guys might not know, in 1990, I tried out for the Indiana Pacers. It was the hardest damn training camp I had ever participated in. Back then they had Vern Fleming, they had Rick Smits, some of those guys. But and then the Pacers, man, my rookie year with the Rockets, which was 95, 96, it might be the only time I did not want to get into a game because, man, it was just so physical with Antonio Davis, Dale Davis, Hayward Workman. Then they had another big guy who didn't play a lot, but he was crazy, named Adrian Caldwell. They were just beating the hell out of my teammates, and I was like, Lord, Rudy Tomjanovich, please don't put me in this game. So, yeah, I have a lot of fond memories of the Pacers. That's back. But we're talking 95, so that's back when every NBA team and every NBA city had their own personality. And Indiana Pacers, New York Knicks, Detroit Pistons was the bump and grind teams. When you played them, you were going to get touched up and beat up.
Yeah.
Now everybody just wants to shoot threes and all that nonsense. But just great memories of playing against the Pacers, man. It really was.
It was. And we should note that I believe when you played in New Orleans in high school, your backcourt teammate was Robert Pack, who also played in the NBA, correct?
Yes, sir. We went to high school together. Yeah, me and the Pac, man.
Well, did you guys win a title in Louisiana? Because you sure as hell better have.
We did not because I got hurt my senior year. We were 16-2, and I had a really, really bad ankle sprain, so I didn't play the rest of the season. But a lot of fun playing with Robert. Really proud of him and what he went on to do as a player, not only as a player but as a coach.
Yeah.
He coached in the NBA for a long time. So myself, Robert, Avery Johnson, Jaren Jackson, quite a few guys from New Orleans went on to play in the NBA, yeah.
That is Eldridge Recasner right there. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'm going to call you a member of the Big Ten Network West Coast Bureau. If you don't mind, we wouldn't mind to reach out to you again whenever we're talking up toward the end of the season in the Big Ten because I know you got a pretty good focus on what's going on out there with the teams out west, and I appreciate it more than you know for coming on here today, Eldridge.
No, I appreciate you guys inviting me on, man. And whenever I can be of help, just let me know. I'm excited for Washington, Oregon, UCLA, USC joining the Big Ten. I got to admit I'm a little sad to see the Pac-12 go under.
Yeah.
It's going to reinvent itself with some new teams. But I'm looking forward to life in the Big Ten, man. Hopefully I get a chance to go on the road to see some of those venues because the only place that I played when I was in college was Minnesota when they had Willie Burton and Walter Bond and Melvin Newbern, those guys. We played Michigan State in a tournament, but I've never been to the campus. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these Big Ten campuses and what it's like on the road in the Big Ten.
Well, that's awesome.
Thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely, Eldridge. Come on anytime, man. Thank you.
All right, y'all have a great day.
Eldridge Recasner on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. The toughest training camp he ever went through was the Pacer training camp, where evidently he didn't make the team. That's good. I just kind of found him out there, and I told James, I said, I remember this guy. Let's get him on. He's got a pretty good backstory. Wanted to hear a little bit more about those out west in the Big Ten with Eldridge Recasner on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Let's take a quick break. We shall return. Coming up on the other side, sit tight. We've got Bob Lovell going to join us. Don Fisher still to come. Bobby Buckets will be here as well. Friday edition of this show, the stream, the app, it's HD Radio. It's Inside the Lounge, YouTube Live, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, and the beat goes on. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, yeah. 90s coming up tomorrow night, JMV Takeover. Beginning at 6. Those of you going to the Pacer game, coming from the Pacer game, yeah, you got that number. I'll be serving up all your requests until midnight from the 1990s on the JMV Takeover on B105.7. Coming up tomorrow night. Busy first portion of the show. Jeremiah Johnson, Pacers TV. If it was something between the Pistons and the Pacers after the game last night, because he was right there in the middle of it. If you missed that conversation, the podcast at 1075thefan.com, JJ mentioned that maybe there is a rematch once the Pacers get back from Paris. I believe that's on the 29th. That should be worth watching. I mean, hell, I can't remember the last time the Pacers and the Pistons were worth watching. And last night they were, but that definitely is something I think you circle on your calendar. JJ a little bit earlier, and the debut on this show of Eldridge Recasner. If you guys remember him, his NBA era was mid-90s to the beginning of the 2000s, bounced around a couple of NBA teams. He's a part of the Big Ten Network, FS1, NBC Sports, based out of Seattle, Washington, so he does a lot of the West Coast stuff for his network coverage in the Big Ten for basketball, and I thought he was really good. We hit that, and the legend that was Gus Williams, who passed away a couple of days ago. And I, for one, from that 79 team, that was one of my favorites of all time right there. The 79 Seattle Supersonics. And he was really good. Podcast with Eldridge Recasner, and we'll get him back on again at 1075thefan.com. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline to update us on what is the inbound high school basketball schedule, boys and girls, and a lot going on. He's brought to you by Express Pro Tire and Auto, the 13 Central Indiana. Joe Childers Red locations from it is our good friend Bob Lovell, Indiana Sports Talk representation. Fridays and Saturday nights, he joins us now. Hello, Bob.
Hey, John. How are you?
Bob, we've got a little Marion County tournament semifinal round action later on tonight, don't we?
That is correct. It's always one of the great times of the year, and basketball in Marion County is pretty solid. It's a great tournament. It's always a fun event, and again, there's a lot going on.
There he is.
A lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot.
We'll start right there. Ben Davis, LN is that first matchup at 6 o'clock coming up later on tonight. And really the four remaining teams is kind of a who's who in Marion County. There's no question about that in basketball. But let's start right there with the Ben Davis, LN matchup, Bob.
Well, I mean, these are two teams that are ranked in the top 5 in the state. They're really good. They're both loaded with talent. I think Ben Davis is just continuing to play better and better. LN has just been at the high level all year long. Coach Giffin's guys have been they're an absolutely difficult team to match up with, and it's just a situation where this is one of those. This is, John, in some ways, this is like a semi-state or a championship level game with the talent and the coaching and how well both teams are playing and those kinds of things. So, yeah, there's a lot happening here, without question. There's a lot going on in this ball game, and it's always this way. I mean, it's this is why it's so much fun, is that you have you're creeping up, in middle of January, so to speak, and your games they're harder and harder to get more difficult, and so great games, great matchups tonight in the tournament.
It's Bob Lovell, Indiana Sports Talk, will have all that he can recapture coming up later on tonight of the semifinal round of the Friday night around the state in basketball, and obviously everything coming at you tomorrow, including that of college. And IU Ohio State, I'm sure, will be conversed about later on tonight on Indiana Sports Talk. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So Pike and North Central, Bob, tonight in the second semifinal. We're talking 6-5 and 7-5, so it's not going to knock you out as far as overwhelming records, but two teams that at least look like that they're playing better right now. We always know this tournament can be a jump start if you play well for anybody.
Well, I think it's a great point, John. I think what you have here are two great young coaches who are getting better and better at what they do. Coach Gantz, it's his second year, and here you go with Jeff Teague. Everybody knows the legend and understands. So all he's done in his entire life is win. And so year number two, things are getting better and better. But you're right. Don't pay attention to the record. There's some really talented kids. And this is a game that means so much to them for the opportunity to play in the championship. So, it may slide under the radar most people, but that's as good a game as there is in the state tonight.
One thing that doesn't slide under the radar, historically speaking, and we'll go back, 25 plus years if you want to, that has been a very popular place in and around Pike with talented players. We've seen that on all levels, including their head coach at the NBA level. Is it getting back to, I don't know if I want to call that a golden era, but we can if we want, just for the sake of the question here. Is it kind of getting back to the rediscovering of that level of talent in basketball around there?
Well, I think it might be. Obviously, time will tell. But, we went through that stretch. We went through a stretch, as you point out, not long ago where, look at the number of guys who ended up in the NBA for some period of time from Marion County and of the surrounding counties, especially, Marion County. So, I think we turn out a great number of pretty talented players, and this is just another situation. I think we'll find out. There's some really, really talented kids, as we point out, and I think if you ask them, they'll all say about the same thing. One of the highlights of their career was playing in the Marion County tournament. Yeah, you got that. The semifinals tonight. Johnson County Tournament semifinals. Whiteland Greenwood at 6. Center Grove at 6 and 5. We'll get Greenwood Christian in the nightcap at 5 and 8. I was kind of sizing this up a little bit, and if there was an opportunity, I know historically speaking, Center Grove has a pretty good edge in this particular tournament. But if there is a season to where that's not the case, it would seem like so far we've seen that in Johnson County. Well, it's a little more wide open than it has been. And, obviously Center Grove you have to pay attention to. And they're the defending champs. Greenwood Christian starting to put some things together. They're playing better. It's a young group, but they're getting better. Greenwood is I think they've done a fantastic job this year, played awfully well. And so I just think that the county rivalries, you know how this is, it's different than regular season. You're a little more emotion, a little more urgency, if you will. And so that's why they're so much fun. And it's what's great is, you come out of the holidays with some tournament action, and then you go into a couple of weeks of tournament county tourneys around the state. So this is another continuation of that fun period of time for basketball fans. Westfield, Hamilton Southeastern, 8-1 and 8-5 coming at you later on tonight too, up in Hamilton County. Love the game. Westfield, I wouldn't say quietly, but they've kind of been under the radar screen themselves. All they do is just go out and win. They just keep winning. And it's kind of HSE, I think, is starting to turn the corner, starting to get a little bit better. So it's a big north side rivalry. It's a great couple of teams who I think are going to go far in the tournament. So you get a whole lot going on with that game. Yeah, Fisher's number 1 in 4A. Brownsburg on the road tonight, and then South Bend Riley on Saturday. That's interesting because South Bend Riley is 10-2, and you can find them a little bit further down in the top 20 in 4A. That seems like a good Saturday night matchup. But I do want to get to this because Bob brought this up a little bit earlier this week. Anderson, I don't know if we're stirring the echoes of the past there, but 11-1. They get Lafayette Jeff coming up later on tonight. Mark's team is 10-2. Always good, always tough to play. We know that. And then Hamilton Southeastern at 8-5. So a challenging Friday and Saturday for an 11-1, 6th-ranked team in Anderson. Well, Anderson is stirring the echoes. I mean, this is the best run they've had in a while. Donnie Bowling has done a fantastic job with this group, and they just, they continue to get better and better. It's a group that's growing up. They got some veterans with it. They're clearly very talented. This is a pretty challenging weekend, without question. Your buddy Coach Barnheiser's Broncos are playing better. HSE, again, I think is playing better. But Anderson is having one of those years where they deserve to be in the top 10. They played some really, really good teams and played people hard. And so, yeah, there's nothing wrong with seeing the some big North Central Conference matchup. One of those things we haven't talked about in a long, long time with Anderson and Jeff tonight.
It's Bob Lovell with us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Before I let you go, 3A, Cathedral 9-3, Garin 12-2. That's on Saturday. That should be fun. Southern Indiana's got 13-1 Silver Creek and 9-0 Brownstown Central coming up tonight too. So that's a hellaciously good matchup down in Southern Indiana.
Well, the Silver Creek B-Town matchup is always good. You know that. That is those are two teams. Look, don't be surprised if those two teams make runs in the tournament, and they really are. I mean, obviously Silver Creek was there not long ago. Brownstown Central played for the championship a year ago. The amazing thing is they lose Jack Benner, and they just continue to play at a very, very high level. So great matchups. You mentioned Cathedral and Garin. I think that may be as good as a game as there is in the entire state this weekend. Those are two really, really good teams. Getting better and better at what they do. And so another typical weekend, John, around the state.
Hey, Bob, we should note before we exit, the City of Clay in Class A, number 1, 9-1. The City of Clay gets Eastern Green at 4-6 later on tonight. So the Thunderbirds are challenging number 1 in the City of Clay later on tonight.
The birds clearly have a challenge.
Speaking of stirring the echoes at 4-6, yeah.
How did you guys do when you played Clay City back in the day?
I don't think we did play the City of Clay. In baseball, we did because I remember they didn't have like a fence. So when you hit a home run, you hit it out in the weeds somewhere. Right. Yeah, that's what you did.
Right. Well, listen, that part of the state, as you know, look. Yeah, how about Bloomfield and Linton?
Oh,
there tonight?
Blake Neal, JB's son. Yeah, JB's son is one of the better players in Southern Indiana. Plays for Bloomfield. JB's the head coach now at Martinsville, and he was a longtime friend of mine from Eastern as well. And obviously, Linton's a top 5 team. Also in the state in 2A, so should be fun. All right, well, hey, tell everybody about it. You'll do that in college coming up later on tonight and tomorrow night and have a blast doing it, Bob, as always. We appreciate this rundown on a Friday.
Thanks, John. Have a great weekend.
It's Bob Lovell of Indiana Sports Talk. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, as always, brought to you by your 13 Central Indiana. Joe Childers Run, Express Pro Tire and Auto. Locations right there. Yeah, the City of Clay. The City of Clay did not have, if anybody ever play, now, if you were playing in the backyard or something, you went through this, but did anybody ever play a meaningful game in high school or otherwise, maybe even lower, in baseball, to where they didn't have a fence and a home run was just if you hit it in the weeds? Anybody ever have, if you hit it in the weeds, it's a home run? In 1985, James, in the City of Clay City, if you hit it in the weeds, it was a home run. We were dialing long distance in the weeds. True story. Quick break, we'll come back. Nothing at the top of the hour. You and I will jump back to the Pacers and the Pistons from last night. Big win by the Pacers on the road. And do we have a little bit of juice going on in this rematch coming up after the Pacers get back from playing San Antonio and Paris? We'll get to that. We'll get to the weekend with IU Ohio State. Don Fisher, after 5, is going to join us as well. Bobby Riddell's going to be here coming up in the 4 o'clock hour from Eugene, Oregon, getting you set for the Boilermakers and the Ducks. That's coming up tomorrow. Quick break. We'll come back. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
him a second to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Can you feel it, baby? You think if Mark Wahlberg were to ever appear on this show, which probably not, let's just say, if I got into this, would he?
I mean, does he
open up about it?
Does he not like his past
I can't
as a
imagine,
rapper?
man. I can't imagine, and it probably doesn't matter to him not to talk about it, right? There are a lot of other things, but let's just say that's how basically everybody was introduced to Mark Wahlberg, was Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch and Good Vibrations. Part of the 90s right there, James. Thank you very much. This quick NFL nugget involving the Colts, according to Albert Breer, who oftentimes is incredibly inaccurate, so take it with a grain of salt. Ex-Saints coach Dennis Allen interviewing with the Colts for that D.C. gig today. And according to Breer, the Colts have already met with Wink Martindale, who was great on Tic-Tac-Doe, Steve Wilkes, and Lou Anarumo, as they are looking to fill that gig. Rick Venturi said back on Tuesday he didn't have a lot of confidence they were going to make the right choice. Pretty funny. Dennis Allen, according to Albert Breer, is in today for you Colts fans out there to know. This sad news, I saw this from our friend Dave Lenquist of IBJ. These are reports. I have not seen anything concrete, but I saw Dave hit this up within the last hour on X. Sorry to see reports that Toby Myers, one of Indiana's true rock stars, died yesterday. Toby Myers played bass, guitar on 10 John Mellencamp songs that reached the top 10 of Billboard magazine's singles chart. And there's a picture of him right here that Dave has from the AMAs in 1983. He's between Mellencamp and former point guard at the Bloomington YMCA at noon, Larry Crane. If anybody down in Monroe County's ever played basketball with Larry Crane in the past, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But Toby Myers was with Roadmaster. A lot of you would remember that. And then got recruited by Mellencamp and his band, and he was significant a part of, along with Mike Wanchik and Kenny Arnoff and others, the album of 1983. And his first gig was after a couple of rehearsals for Mellencamp's band when they did a stint in April of 1982 on Saturday Night Live as the musical guest. Again, I haven't seen it concretely, but Dave Lenquist had a post regarding the passing of Toby Myers, a significant musical piece to this area for a long time. All right, quick break. We'll come back. I got time for you on the other side at 239-1070. Pacers last night. IU later on tonight. NFL weekend if you want to go there. Boilermakers in Oregon coming up tomorrow afternoon. Bobby Riddell, Bobby Buckets from the Boilermaker Radio Network is going to be here. And join us from Eugene at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. And Don Fisher from Columbus in preparation for IU and Ohio State. And you kind of wonder what this group is going to look like. Now, people are sending me Mackenzie Mbako liking a Fire Mike Woodson X message. I'll have to have a little bit more insight. You're sending it to me. And is this meaningful? I asked the question regarding last night after the game with the Pistons, the Pacers. Is that story meaningful to anybody? IU fan-wise. Quick one, we'll come back. Wide open and Bobby Buckets in the 4 o'clock hour. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Boom-ba. Sis boom-ba. Describe the sound made when a sheep explodes.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
This would be La Bouche. They had two of these songs like that in the 90s, right? Be My Lover, and one more, too.
This is the only one I really know.
La Bouche. What does that mean? La Bouche.
No idea.
Do I even want to know? 90s coming up tomorrow night of the JMV Takeover, and James is helping get you ready for the All Request Saturday night, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock on B105.7. James?
According to this, La Bouche means mouth.
Does it really?
Apparently.
So the mouth?
Bouche is a French word that translates to mouth in English.
The mouth. I guess La Bouche does sound a hell of a lot better than being called the mouth.
Yeah.
Hey, here's the mouth with Be My Lover. B1057.
Of course, they're a German band, so I don't know why they're a French name.
German. I mean, maybe they could open up for the Colts coming up in 2025 in Berlin. La Bouche, David Hasselhoff, and then the Colts. Or the Colts open up for La Bouche. Tell you what, the way the Colts played against the Giants, they would open up for La Bouche. Yeah, I saw this last night. A lot of you guys are referencing this. What was Isaiah Stewart mad about? Well, the Pistons were all mad about something. Their head coach was also mad about something afterwards. And apparently it all stemmed from, of all people, Pascal Siakam. From what most of them had said during the game, early in the game, talking. But I swear to you, and this was asked of me, if you see the video when Miles is talking to JJ, and he hears the yip-yapping going on behind him, and then pauses and then looks back at JJ and goes, what's this? And then they got a camera on Beef Stew, and Beef Stew is pointing at his teeth. Was he pointing at James Johnson and James Johnson's grill or something like that? I'm telling you, these are moments why people always say, why do you need James Johnson? He's occupying a spot, blah, 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 whatever. You're not going to go night in and night out that deep in the rotation anyway, but you really do need somebody like that. Because these guys are going to try to get up into you. You saw that a year ago with the Bucks. They're going to try to take advantage of you, and the regulator is there to regulate. But I will tell you this. If I could see a battle, Isaiah Stewart, Beef Stew, has been known to blow a gasket himself. He may be a little bit crazy. So I don't know if there is something that happens between James Johnson and Beef Stew, I'm maybe all on board of that. Don't have to wait very long either. What, the 29th, I think, is when the two teams match up once again. But yeah, check out that video from last night. We talked to Jeremiah Johnson about that moment a little bit earlier in the show. But it looked like that Beef Stew was pointing at his teeth or his grill and then in the direction of James Johnson, the regulator. And last night, you saw, again, why the regulator is also there. And it's not just that. I mean, it's also to ride herd on dudes if they get loose in the locker room or on the bench too, but that's certainly his situation. The regulator mounted up last night. For real. Skivvy says, you can see as Pascal walked away from Cunningham at the end, Cunningham called him a dumbass. It was just weird. Because I had looked away, and I had thought that maybe it was one of those, unwritten rule circumstances where the Pacers had taken a shot at the end of the game, and then the Pistons were all pissed, because everybody gets pissed about that now. The old unwritten rule, you can't do anything else. Like both teams dribble out the clock now. There's nothing more we can do. We're just going to dribble out the clock. And for a moment, I looked down and I thought, did somebody shoot it? Is that why they're mad? And then it took a minute to sort it out, and you still really, truly did not get a feel for why the Pistons were so stinking butthurt last night. But they had a nice little cry after the game for sure. Now, I can look at them and kind of wonder, they're a team that is a surprise. They're a team that has gone through a significant injury to a significant piece and still plays well and is tough. And you would describe now this season as up and coming. And I'm assuming at some point they're probably looking for, that so-called respect. We're so disrespected. I mean, really, all you're doing a long season, you're trying to dig up a little bit of makeshift motivation or the whole chip on your shoulder type of attitude. But it did escalate to a point I thought I didn't even see anything out there. And then, by the way, did you see Beef Stew reference Miles as you play with Legos? And, all Miles had to say was, I had like 8 Legos out there right in your eyeball. I had 28 points, Beef Stew. So, yeah, the Lego guy. I love it, though, when Miles says, I'm building Legos. I don't play with them, I build them, which is good. 28 points last night in the win for the Pacers. And something, as we talked to JJ a little bit earlier, that you can just file away for further use, if you so desire. I mean, it may end up being absolutely nothing. But I can't lie to you. To see a little regulator versus Beef Stew out there, I think I'd be all for that. Be a nice little mid-season thing to have. At least for me. Yeah, Detroit's back in here on Wednesday the 29th. Now, historically speaking, you get back from a long trip, and this one is a long trip to Paris for back-to-back with San Antonio. That's next week, Thursday and Saturday. So Thursday at 2 o'clock, which means we're off coming up next Thursday. That's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then Saturday at noon on the 25th. And then they're back for Wednesday the 29th. That is Detroit. And when you look at the Pacers schedule, you get Philly and no Embiid, and Paul George's groin hurts. So we'll see what happens with Philly and that lineup coming up tomorrow night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. But you have Detroit on the 29th, Atlanta, and then a West Coast trip that takes you through Salt Lake City, Portland, and the new whatever it is dome out with the Clippers playing, and the Lakers to close it out. So there's some opportunities there to do some work, and the Pacers started out so horrifically on the road, have looked so much better recently on the road, without question. DJ Skids, who would know this, chimes in, LaBouche, the other was Sweet Dreams. That's a banger, indeed. Sweet Dreams is the song I could not think of right there. Jim McCann's in Southern California at JMV 1070 on X. Did you know that the Wink Martindale's first game show host gig was What's That Song? If they ever bring it back as a nighttime version, my money's on you for the 70s through the 90s weeks. Indeed, I would slay that. Now, if it's anything close to today, good night. BT Deuce says, I've changed my mind. I'm 100% against weed, JMV. Not until they do something about the freaking smell. Dude in front of me at the checkout smelled like a skunk. I don't remember it smelling that rancid back. That's because you're older now. Why? You're older and you're decaying right before our eyes. Thank you very much. Hey, by the way, congratulations to Evan Sidery. He is with now Pro Football Network as well as doing the NBA work. So he's a friend of the show, got a new gig there. So congratulations to Evan Sidery, Pro Football Network. I was getting to this. Jeremy Bullard brought this up. And evidently there was an Mbako-like to it. So an actual IU player like this. And I'll be honest with you, I'll be looking over stuff in social media. Is anybody else out there, you're afraid Like, I'll look over stuff and then kind of fall asleep and drop my phone or something. Anybody else ever do that? And you're worried if you hit a like button on something that you don't want to hit a like button for. That concern, because my phone's a piece of crap and needs upgraded, and it always concerns me. I'm not trying to give a pass or say there's nothing here, but I am to tell you sometimes you hit a like, and for me, and maybe it's because I'm stupid, I don't know it. Oh man, what? I like that? Hey, dumbass, why are you liking that? So evidently, this is according to listener to the show and friend of the show, Jeremy Bullard. Mackenzie Mbako has liked a tweet from Indiana's Barstool Instagram account. Great. Can anyone remember the last time a player actually liked a post where it talked about firing the head coach? Again, I don't know how you feel about it. But that was sent to me. It was the chant on IU Barstool. I'll be honest. The other thing, too, and to each his or her own, have fun and do what you want to do. I am just not categorically Barstool guy. And that doesn't mean it's bad. I'm just not it. I'm not the guy that's I like to have a hell of a time, don't get me wrong. A lot of stuff's funny, but I am not the average Barstool person. I'm not who they're going to try to target. But this was IU Barstool's beginning of the end and the chant of Fire Woodson that evidently somebody suggests. I guess this is Mackenzie Mbako right here. I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to hand out any excuses here. I'm just telling you from my history, I have hit like about 1,000 times and went, damn, I didn't mean to like that. And I did. Now, I will also tell you that you can recognize it because it would go along with where this team is right now. And tonight at 8 o'clock in Columbus against a team that is incredibly beatable, that you should be competitive against, this could be one of those games to where, you pile on after Iowa last Saturday, after Tuesday night at home against Illinois and that absolute embarrassment. This may be one of those situations where you're going to get so far down the road. And in fact, I think right now they're way too far down the road. I mean, it's over to me. But is it over in the end of the season terms, or is it one of those things to where this thing is going to get so stinking toxic that you're going to have players liking something like that, or it actually happening, or is that going to get worse? I mean, you already have players going back and forth with fans and media members, and it's just so stupid, entertaining as hell. I'm entertained by it, but just so stupid. And I know it only takes 35 seconds to type one of these things out. It is not like that you're taking away time and effort from your workout. It is just a bad look. As I said earlier this week, if you play like that in Iowa City, if you play like that especially at home, then if you're a player, you need to take your phone and go throw it in Lake Monroe and be done with it. None of it. No messaging, none of it. You don't want any part of it. And I know it'd be tough to ignore because everybody's calling you everything. And you just want to fire back and say, you know what, how about smooch my rear end? I'm playing at the college level, you're not, blah, whatever. But you just can't do it. Or I should say this, you can do it, and then it just makes things worse. Yeah, Lake Monroe with probably about another 10,000 phones that are at the bottom of that thing right now. From summertime fun on a pontoon, I would guess. But you wonder tonight if this might be a swing opportunity for things to get even worse. And you're going to say, well, wait a minute, how much worse can you get? Did you watch that thing the other night? Exactly. but it can get worse. It can get more toxic. And it does suck because you're talking about a high-level legacy. And then with the person that has been most supportive of that high-level legacy within the program, you're talking about that person too. So you're talking about Mike Woodson. You're talking about Quinn Buckner. And this does incredible damage all the way around. I mean, it does suck. You can't be scared of wanting to reel in one of your own, one of your formers, but when it spirals like this is when it gets really ugly, and it can get worse. And by worse, I mean get toxic. We'll see how that team responds. Elvis says, I thought likes were hidden on X right now. I better stop looking at nude photos. Now, I'm not sure. I think this was on Instagram, Elvis. It was sent to me on X, but I think it was on Instagram. Hell, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Somebody just said he liked a post that said Fire Woodson. Go ahead.
X does have your likes as private, so nobody else
They're
can see
private?
them. Yeah.
So this was on Instagram,
More
where I
than
think
likely,
everybody
yeah.
saw, right? I don't like Instagram either. But I think my stuff goes to Instagram because I'm archaic and I post on Facebook all the time. You have to be really old to be posting on Facebook? Is that like MySpace?
I mean, I have a Facebook, but I do mostly use it to stay in contact with extended family
It's
and
like
stuff.
a yearbook, right?
Yeah, basically.
Kind of like a yearbook. Well, I have two. I have one for the show and then one for me, and then I kind of mix them together. And, of course, the people here, they're really smart people, very intelligent folks, say you got to become more digitally savvy. So I try to send stuff out all the time on video with the world's crappiest phone that needs upgraded, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. So I really don't know. But, yeah, private on X, but it was sent to me, the question, Elvis, on X, that this whole thing was created as a part, I guess, of Instagram. And then you're really, really losing me with all that nerdery right there. Thank you, though, Elvis. But seriously, I don't know what the hell I'm like and half. I go, wait a minute. I'm afraid when I scroll and I run across the like or you may ever scroll and maybe you're scrolling through something that you don't follow and you don't want to follow. You go, oh, wait a minute. I accidentally follow this. That can happen, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the worst for me is I'll be scrolling and then my phone will think I'm trying to hit the share button on something that I'm just scrolling past, and I almost send it to some random people.
I don't know if you can still notice this on Twitter or former Twitter, what is now X, but I could tell in the past a couple of different people that dislike me a great deal that I know that have scrolled and accidentally, because you could tell that they're looking at my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing there, believe me. I mean, I'm the biggest jack around ever. But you can tell that they're scrolling on my page and accidentally follow me and then, oh, my God, and then unfollow me really quick because it sends you that message of, hey, they're now following you.
And then you go and check
and then
they're
really
not
quick,
in there.
well, they're not anymore. They go, oh, my God, I actually hit follow. While I'm sizing up your handle, I actually hit follow. You know what? It's incredibly funny, and it would not be incredibly funny if it would not be so incredibly stupid. And we're all worse for it. 100%. Jeff writes this, JMV, after hearing the Pistons coach post-game remarks, all I got for him is, how about them Cavaliers? Yeah, after he left. I will say this. We were talking about it yesterday. I think it was Kristen Airy. Yeah, J.B. Bickerstaff. Tom Thibodeau is the same way. Different levels, certainly, that they have reached, but the same way. It seems like both these guys, for different reasons, have a shelf life. And really, let's just say it. All these guys have a shelf life. All these coaches now, everybody has a shelf life, but in particular, their styles of coaching. Because one seems to be not so volatile, incredibly nice, very pro player, and that's J.B. Bickerstaff. And the other seems to be very volatile, my way or the highway, and players in former stops at some point will get tired of hearing that same old, hardcore, archaic message and decide to want to bail. Again, there's a shelf life for everybody now. That's just the world in which we live. Unless you're here and you get like 9 years. But it seems like for those two coaches in the NBA, there is one, but for different reasons, different circumstances. So I just got an X message from Fulton, right? Fulton's a friend of the show. Fulton has the remix of the Earth, Wind, and Fire September, where he plays on the ukulele, and I started playing that when he requested on the JMV Takeover. And you guys have heard Fulton yesterday called in during Anything Goes and played some of September by Earth, Wind, and Fire on the ukulele. So evidently, I'm at home this morning, and I get a call from Nikki from ZPL, the Smiley Morning Show. She said Fulton called up and talked about his remix song with Dave Smiley in the Smiley Morning Show this morning.
Did he really?
Yeah. I ain't going to hit everybody up on that. I thought maybe we could get that thing on the charts some way. Let's hit everybody up.
We'll get him on the Billboard Top 100.
Yeah. Coming in at number 98, the Fulton remix of Earth, Wind, and Fire, September. He just wrote me this. I can't wait to hear my remix of September by Earth, Wind, and Fire on the JMV Takeover. And thanks to Lindsay and Gina for listening to my ukulele, singing and playing.
He just sent you that?
Well, he sent that to me, and then I think he almost sent this to the museum curator in Vancouver, British Columbia, that has at JMV.
Oh,
have you ever noticed that?
I did not. There's another JMV out there?
There is an at JMV, and he wanted to charge me $4,000 to give me that.
Really?
He's just a huge butthole, is what he is.
Ah, I see him now.
Huge. He's just some huge museum curating nerd, and he got sick and tired. He actually blocked me at some point years ago because he got sick and tired of people sending him stuff accidentally when they thought it was me ripping me, and then he thought they were ripping him. But he wanted to charge me like $4,000 for it. I go, dude, I don't want it that much. I wouldn't want it for $4. Much $4,000. Well, I'm going to have to charge you for this. I said, no, they can just keep on sending you crap then.
It's like a Hall of Fame player making a rookie charging a Hall of Fame player for his jersey number when he changes teams.
It is pretty funny. Yeah, Vanderhill is who it is. Jason M. Vanderhill.
I didn't know if we should say his name on air.
I don't care. He does follow me now, though.
He follows you now?
He didn't used to follow me. IllustratedVancouver.ca, the contributor to Vancouver Confidential. The hell's that? Vancouver Confidential is a collaboration of artists and writers who plumb the shadows of civic memory, looking for the stories that don't fit into mainstream narratives.
They plumb the shadows?
They plumb the shadows of civic memory.
I didn't know plumb could be used as a verb.
Plumb the shadows. Well, I mean, if you're plumbing your... Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's
I'm
fair.
gonna plumb the
I don't know
pipes,
why
yeah.
my head went to like plum, like the fruit or whatever it is, vegetable.
Well, I can tell you this. I've never used plum in that fashion.
Either have I.
We honor the chorus line behind the star performer, the mug in the mug shot, the victim in the murder, the teens in the gang, and the slum in the path of the bulldozer. Vancouver Confidential. From Anvil Press. It's our guy Vanderhill right there. I've not heard from him since he wanted me to pay like $4,000 for that handle.
Well, he follows you now, so.
Yeah, I'm not mad at
shoot him a message.
because I'm sure as hell not paying for it. So, seriously, a dime maybe. Go ahead.
If he wanted just like a bar restock, would you send him that? Or would that even be too much?
Listen, if there were an olive branch opportunity, because he hates my guts, because I will give you this. Mark Janes still consistently sends him stuff. He means to send to me, but he sends to at JMV. So the voice of the greatest spectacle in racing will send Vanderhill stuff because he thinks it's me. So I know he gets sick and tired of it. And he's one of these dudes that would get sick and tired of anything in like half a second, because I'm sure he's just got some huge lump of coal up his butt.
Probably.
So, yeah. See, BT Dude just sent me this. At JMV has him blocked. So anybody that's ever sent me junk before, of any kind, good or bad, he's blocked them.
At a certain point, don't you think it would just be easier to just give up the
Yeah.
Give up the tag.
Why not? You can be like Vanderhill Plums. Plums in the shadows of civic memory. Yeah. Yeah, that's the story behind at JMV right there, and why I'm JMV 1070, which 1070, by the way, still does exist, I think, up on the roof right here in a very minor way. Still does exist, which makes me incredibly sad. Radio Indiana. You know, that still plays on Saturday night as a vintage Indy drop, too. That ID, which is just absolutely one of the most famous IDs of all time. Radio Indiana. Have you heard it before?
I'm sure I have.
Radio Indiana, WIBC.
I'm sure I've heard it.
Awesome. Damon writes this. I've heard it's going to be 90s JMV tomorrow night. Are you still doing super sounds of the 70s? Probably so, yeah. If I'm not, I may request Du Hast by Rammstein. Sorry. It's 1997, I think. Yeah, let's not do Rammstein. Stein.
It was Stein. It's Stein. I think we decided on Stein yesterday.
No Du Hast for me tomorrow night, please. Thank you very much, Damon. All right, Bobby Buckets in Eugene, Oregon is going to join us. Did you know in Eugene, Oregon, what famous film in the 1970s was put together, where they filmed it? You know, Animal House was filmed in Eugene, Oregon. Animal House, fictitiously, was Faber College in the 78 comedic classic starring the late, great John Belushi, among others. Faber College, the backdrop, Eugene, Oregon, which today houses one Bobby Riddell. Bobby Buckets joins us from the Boilermaker Radio Network. That's coming up next to Don Fisher from Columbus, top of the hour. Stay right there. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Idiot in the dictionary. You know what you'll find?
Picture me?
No! The definition of the word idiot, which you f***ing are.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Now give us a little Chardonnay. That's a little odd. Sending me into Bobby Buckets right there. Chardonnay action on this Friday. Thank you for joining us again. A shout out to Tom's Watch Bar yesterday. Both Lindsay and Gina for being a part of the show. It was a blast. We saw BT and Damon and Bill, among others, down there. Hell of a time. Tom's Watch Bar, and there is some kind of, help me out here, some event going on downtown this weekend because you can tell now, especially, for example, on Maryland, because where they've been fixing the sewer for the past however long, way too damn long, and it's down to one lane and then the red line lane to turn left, for example. And this is what I love, too. You can't turn left or right on a one-way or anyway on red anymore, but you can park your trailer full of Lime scooters in the middle of the intersection so you can unload those masters of broken limbs to everybody downtown. It was great. Who's in charge? I don't want to get all political. I'm not going to, but who's in charge? What the hell? Why don't they just close Illinois up to Maryland or something? Instead of having to hop over that big ditch to get into Tom's Watch Bar. Just curious. Got to vault over and build a bridge over the top of that sewer trench, would you please? Good time yesterday. JMV, if I'm bringing in a new veteran backup for Anthony Richardson, I'm pulling for Jacoby Brissett. Okay. Get back to that comment in a second. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline, Eugene, Oregon, tomorrow, 3 o'clock. 2 p.m., Boilermaker Radio Network. The former Boiler, Bobby Buckets, Bobby Riddell, a part of the Boilermaker Radio Networks on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Good trip so far out west, I gather.
Hey, JMV. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Definitely a good start to the trip, being able to go into Washington and get that win, especially after a rough first half from a performance standpoint, especially shooting the basketball and able to rally with a pretty strong second half and start the trip on the right foot. And now we have to square off against the Ducks, who, of course, are probably even a much tougher test than our previous game.
It's Bobby Riddell on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline, Boilermaker Radio Network. So Brian from Crafters in Carmel was there to watch Braden Smith, along with a lot of other in Seattle on Wednesday night Boilermaker fans. Were you surprised of the representation from Boilermaker fans in that building on Wednesday night?
I was surprised. We had quite the showing there as far as the gold and black goes in that building. So that was pretty cool to see. I suppose with the amount of success we've had here in recent years, I shouldn't be as surprised by maybe some of the following we get in cities far away from West Lafayette, but it was still really neat to see the support we had out there. And I know Washington's struggling this year, so maybe their fan support might not be at its highest, but it was pretty cool to see the Boilermaker faithful kind of get in there. And there was definitely at times it felt like the louder yells were for us than it was for the home team.
Yeah, second half obviously was the deciding factor. What do you think path-wise was taken to get them there? I mean, overall, it was just a better product in the second half. But what was said by Matt Painter and the staff at the half that got them to that point? Because it did look quite different very quickly in the second half on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think in the first half, we certainly, kind of bit ourselves in the foot a little bit, or shot ourselves in the foot a little bit as far as with the turnovers. We had some issues staying on our feet in that first half at times, as falling down and turning the basketball over, whether that was Fletcher or Braden or Trakoff and Wren. Those guys had a tough time keeping their feet at times, and then we, missed some decent looks. Of course, you go 0 from the three-point line in the first half, missed some free throws. I think we were like 2 for 6 from the line in the first half. So, you don't capitalize on some of those opportunities. You shoot the ball poorly, turn it over. you put yourself in a tough spot. Thankfully, our defense was pretty strong in that first half, caused a number of turnovers, and so we were still in striking range. And I think the message at half from the staff was like, hey, we think we're the better team. We're getting, when we don't slip and fall, we're getting some good looks. We just got to start capitalizing on them and make them. And if we can continue this defensive effort, we should be able to, make this comeback and get things going in our favor. And that was certainly huge. And we scored that basket right before the half to cut it to 8. And then we kind of kept that momentum going with a nice start to the second half. And then really that 13-0 run midway through the second half where we changed it from a 1-point deficit to a 12-point lead. That was kind of that critical moment in the game where it went from, hey, this game could go down to the wire to, all right, it looks like Purdue's going to be able to cruise to victory.
What's most interesting about this is, Bobby, that Fletcher Lawyer didn't give him anything in the first half. C.J. Cox didn't score during the game, and it was a lot of Braden Smith along with Trey Kaufman-Wren keeping their head above water. But I did want to give a shout-out to Caleb first because, honestly, since the Toledo game and his starting lineup insertion, there has been a difference I think we have seen with this team.
It's just been phenomenal, right? Caleb's impact these last 6 games. It's been really fun to watch. Obviously, Caleb is the lone senior on this team. It's exciting to see him get this opportunity and to really take advantage of it. A guy who's put in a lot of time, obviously has had inconsistent minutes throughout his career, has started some, and is also, like last year in particular, really as that backup center to Zach Edey, didn't get a lot of opportunity because, of course, it's tough to take Zach off the floor. So it's really neat to see the impact he's had since he's been inserted. Yeah, you mentioned that Toledo game, the start of our 6-game win streak. That was the last game he came off the bench, and he was plus 28 in like 20 minutes off the bench in that game. So clearly, even though maybe from a points or rebound standpoint he wasn't off the charts, his impact on the floor in the plus-minus column was astounding, and he has been inserted in the starting lineup ever since then. And yeah, his defense and rebounding, it's really kind of unlocked something for us. I think we missed that rim protection he's been able to give us. Of course, he's not going to be, one of the top shot blockers in the country or anything, but just with his, size at 6'10", pretty good athlete, just giving you much more of a rim presence defensively than we did have in there. And his rebounding, we're one of the best transition offenses in the country. If you can get that thing out to Braden Smith, C.J. Cox can handle it. Jakari Harris, Fletcher can put it on the floor a little bit. Like, you get it out to those guards, and we can be dangerous in the open floor. Caleb and Trey both run pretty well. If Cam Heide or Miles Colvin's in there, they can be assets in the transition game. But we were just so often we're not securing the defensive rebound, so we didn't get a chance to get out in transition. Caleb has done a nice job solidifying the defensive glass for us. He's such a great defender. I mean, at 6'10", with his athleticism, the way he moves his feet, he can guard multiple positions, really 1 through 5. It gives us that versatility to switch on the perimeter and just knock out actions of the opponent. So his presence has been huge. He gets offensive rebounds, gets second chance opportunities. That was another area that since we didn't have Zach this year, we were really missing out on those offensive rebound opportunities. He's done better at that. He had a big one last night, kind of the punctuation point of the game, gets it, pump fake, and one, and converts that hoop in the harm. So, yeah, he's been awesome. It's been really cool to see. He's a great guy, probably going to be a doctor someday. So just a lot of cool things going right now for Caleb First.
Bobby Riddell, Bobby Buckets of the Boilermaker Radio Network with Purdue and Oregon and Eugene tomorrow afternoon. That tip time is at 3 o'clock. If Boilermaker fans notice, if they haven't seen this yet, Nate Biddle is a big man, a 7-footer, nearly 14 points a game. Whose defensive assignment does that start out to be tomorrow?
That'll be interesting. We have practice later this evening, so we'll probably get some more info on that as practice unfolds. But I could certainly see them starting Kaufman-Wren on him, and then kind of we would use a double the post situation like we have a lot of times, like against Washington. Trey started on Great Osibor, and then he was going to basically do his job to not let Great get it. But if he did, we've been doing a lot of that double teaming from the baseline side and making sure our post players have support if the guy is able to get the catch. So I'm guessing they might go that direction again, but that's, of course, the great aspect of having Caleb first, they may want to weaponize him to guard a guy like Biddle, or they may want to kind of keep him in that defensive power forward position where he can switch four ways with our guards on the perimeter and utilize him as maybe a weak side defender on Biddle. So they have the options there, which is great. And I think it's nice having both, Trey and Caleb as your starting bigs right now, because they both got some solid size. They both move their feet on the perimeter well, and you don't have kind of that one lumbering statue per se that is not able to move well on the perimeter.
So the start time at 3:00, I would assume for those that are bed down often in Eugene, that's going to be a little bit different, a little bit early for them. Seems like this is right in the wheelhouse for Purdue to feel pretty good and hopefully get off to a good start tomorrow afternoon. Is that the feel that you get to?
Yeah, I certainly do. We play our fair share of noon local time starts throughout the course of the season. So we just had one recently at Mackey. So playing a noon local start won't be too much different for us. And,
how often they do? I have not looked.
I don't know how often they do. I don't think they probably do a ton, but for some of these Midwest, East Coast teams that are going to be coming out there now on these getaway days, they certainly may be doing it more. But, it's going to be a NBC national telecast game, so that'll be pretty cool. And, getting off to a fast start, though, certainly would be critical. You would hate to build a big deficit like we did against Washington, the double-digit deficit, an opponent like Oregon, more talented and playing better than the Huskies. Yeah, you would not want to fall behind double figures and try to come back in that situation, because much less likely we could pull that off. So getting off to a good start, feeling good about ourselves, feels like pretty paramount in this one.
Well, and then it's interesting to note that, on Tuesday, Ohio State at Mackey, get Michigan coming up on the schedule the 24th next week. And then IU, so some activity once you get back. It's almost like an NBA thing. You're going out on a West Coast trip, and if you get a West Coast sweep, how good you're going to feel. That's very NBA-esque.
No question. I mean, just think about it. As you said, if you're somehow able to get this one against Oregon, a team that is highly ranked and a lot of the bracketologies, have as a top seed right now. They've got 8 quad one wins, which is the second most in the country behind Auburn, which is pretty incredible. If you're able to get this one and you sweep this trip, then you come back and you have, as you said, 3 consecutive home games. Each Big Ten team this year has a 3 home game stretch in a row, and this will be ours coming up. And even though 3 pretty good teams, Ohio State, Michigan, and IU, of course, with the rivalry game, 3 teams that can come in and beat you, but Mackey has obviously been a weapon for us. We've been so good there. I think 26-game home winning streak at the moment, 26-27, something like that. So, you would feel really good if you get this Oregon game. You would feel great about continuing the win streak, and then you could really put yourself in a position from a Big Ten standing standpoint where in the final home stretch, you'd certainly be right in the mix.
It's Bobby Riddell. Rob Blackman, got you coming up tomorrow, 2:00 pregame show, 3:00 tip time. That's Eugene, Oregon, for the Boilermakers and the Oregon Ducks. Bobby's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Great to have you back. We will do it again soon, and safe travels. Enjoy the call of the game coming up tomorrow afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks, JMV. Thanks for touching base. And, it's good to be talking college hoops again with you. Last year, of course, was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was.
The Boilers are playing some good ball right now, so hopefully we can keep it going.
You got it, Bobby. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Bobby Buckets on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Let us take a break. And Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers in Columbus, Ohio. Top of the hour, right? We got a 5:30? No, 5:30. We do have it Anything Goes because for some reason on a Friday I've got to stay here until 6:20. So we do have that coming up here. So if they're going to make me stay here on a Friday until 6:20, we're going to do a lot of things that aren't normally allowed on the radio. So get ready for that. That's Anything Goes coming up after 6. Don Fisher, top of the hour. Stay right there. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Fan.
Bobby Buckets, podcast 1075thefan.com, Purdue, Oregon tomorrow, 3 o'clock. He did mention that's an NBC national game tomorrow afternoon. BT sent me this, JMV. I saw we're a Detroit fan. By the way, that's another thing that just social media, in particular, X is such a problem with. I can't. A lot of the younger Pacer fans, I don't know, maybe it's just my age, and that's not my demographic, but my God, the level of stupidity. Holy crap. There's no way. And that's not just involving the pay. I mean, there's no way that younger generation's that stupid. Is there? Come on. And I know I'm biased. I'm a member of Generation X. I'm old and crusty, whatever. But there's no way. Because you just follow this stuff. Like somebody posted yesterday that I saw, and I end up getting this just because I end up reading about the Pacers, and that's for you, I guess, right? Which I guess I could get out of for you. Talking about, what they can get for Miles Turner and trading. Are you stupid? What kind of idiot? Have you not learned by now? And I'm happy that you're a fan and maybe you're a listener. And if you're a listener, hopefully we can educate you. You are dumb as hell if you think they need to be trading Miles. And he's not a perfect fit here. Dumb as hell. I've tried to educate, and if you listen to this show and you feel that way, evidently I have failed. And I guess sometimes you cannot reach the cataclysmically stupid, but I give it my best effort. How do you not notice it by now? Now, again, that's across the board. But BT says, Detroit fans saying the Pacers only talk when they're winning. Well, no blank. Yeah, see, that's kind of how it goes. Normally, teams, you don't normally talk a bunch of junk when you lose. Anybody ever played sports before? Anybody ever played? Yeah, we just got beat by. Can you imagine, like, IU going, yeah, Illinois? Well, I guess IU guys did. And look how that went for them. Some of them did. One of them did. Can you imagine? That is just a level of stupidity that I'm assuming it's just made up. It's just kind of made for social media. It's kind of messing around. Is that what they call trolling? Is there a stupidity trolling out there that I'm aware of? Is that what that, just to be stupid?
It's like rage baiting or something.
You don't have any friends, any place to hang, any girlfriend, anything like that. So you're just hanging at home between moments of self-gratification. You decide to go ahead and send out something stupid on social media. Is that it?
Yeah. Try and get people to respond to it.
Now, that part makes sense, I guess. I mean, you got to find a way to pass the time. And between that and, well, I'm assuming is your normal self-gratification, that probably does that. But good Lord. And hopefully that is not a sign of how I have not educated, or we have not educated. But yeah, BT, you're right. I mean, normally junk talk comes with winning. I think Milwaukee had an issue with that too, where you can't say anything when you win. So you can't say anything when you win. You can't shoot when you have a significant lead at the end of games. Is there anything you can do? What can you do? Can you still call it sports? Don Fisher on the other side. Speaking of which, you talk about an effort. I'm going to say that even before a win, an effort in Columbus needs to be forthcoming from this Hoosier basketball team tonight. The voice of the Hoosiers joins us next. because I'm really butthurt when you read your email.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
No, this sounds like Bush. Not LaBouche, but Bush. We had Gavin Rossdale on the show last year, didn't we? Should we give a shout-out? Was Ari Spears was the guy, the comedian that's here in town this weekend? Is he at Helium downtown? He's pretty funny. Same people that got us Craig Robinson once upon a time from Eastbound and Down fame and Hot Tub Time Machine. All right, quick break check. We're not going to take a quick break. We're going to go to Columbus, Ohio right now. The Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I think I got my navigation off a little bit right there. Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers, is waiting patiently to join us before a Friday night matchup in Columbus with IU and Ohio State. Don's with us now. Got my bearings off a little bit right there. My bad.
No, that's not a problem, John. I've been off bearings for a lot of my time in life.
I've noticed this as I've gotten older. When I really have to use the bathroom, my brain really malfunctions. I don't know why that is.
Well, get to the can, man.
I know it. I'm just going to start. I think when I just start cutting it loose where I sit, right?
I'm not going any further with this conversation.
Hey, it has been almost now a week, incredibly eventful. And I said this going into a break, and you can play off of this as well. Obviously, you'd love to get a win, but just a high level of consistent effort is so stinking necessary tonight for so many to see, and I think for this team themselves to see. That's where I would start. How about you?
There's no question. And we've talked about how the slow starts previously this year, but the last two have been just ridiculous. And it's hard to understand. It's difficult to fathom that this team is ready to play when you play that poorly at the outset of any ball game and put yourself in a hole you can't dig out of. And even if you have a nice start to the second half, when you're down 20 at halftime or 28 at halftime, whatever it may be, you're not going to come back. You're not going to be able to make that happen. If you could do it, and Indiana made a little bit of a run right at the beginning of the second half of that ball game against Illinois and knocked off 10 points, I think, or had a 12 to 4 run or something like that. But you've already to expend that kind of energy, and you have to play with energy, especially when you dug that kind of a hole. You can't do that for a whole 20 minutes. I mean, unless that other ball club just fails to do what they're supposed to do, and you know that's not going to happen with most Big Ten teams because they know what they have to do to beat you. So, but the lack of execution, the lack of understanding how hard you have to play, those are the kinds of things that drive Indiana fans mad, and I'm among those at this point. And I've always been among those because I've always thought energy is something that you have to provide as a player. You can't rely on coaches to do it, and naturally they're going to tell you have to play hard. But at the same time, you're the one who has to have the gumption to do that. And honestly, I just don't see it with this ball club on a consistent basis.
It is incredible that is something that they don't know. It's incredible that there is nobody evidently on that team in that lineup that can lead by example in that capacity. They have talent, Don. But, man, when they play down, they play down. And as we've talked about before, when the going gets tough, these guys get going. And that's a hell of a quality right there.
Well, and here's the problem, and I think, and I say this without trying to disparage any individual, but leadership is crucial, and leadership in conference play is even more crucial than it is in regular, in non-conference games, because generally you're going to have several non-conference games that you're not going to get really good competition from, and you know it going in. These kids aren't stupid. They know who they're playing, and they know what their reputation of that team is. And you still have to go out there and give strong effort. And you may not match that effort at the beginning of a ball game, but you can pick it up and get there at some point during the contest and then make a game out of it. And Indiana did that several times when we didn't see that energy at the beginning of the season. At this point in the year, when you're playing nothing but Big Ten teams, you can't do that. And look what happened with Michigan last night. I mean, and I'm not saying I didn't see the first half of that ball game. I saw about the last 10 minutes of the contest and the overtime. And look what happened in that game. I mean, Michigan found themselves in a game against a team that was hungry for a win, and I didn't see the kind of effort or energy or whatever you need at that point in the Michigan ball club. I know they tried to play hard, and Minnesota almost basically gave them the game a couple of different times, and they couldn't take advantage of it. Why not? Because the energy and the effort level wasn't the same as they provided earlier in the game.
It's Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers. 8 o'clock tonight, 7 o'clock coverage begins across the hall, 93 WIBC with IU and Ohio State. Here's the other thing I suggested earlier this week. Some of these guys, when you lose like that and you look like that, whether you're in Iowa City or you're at home, take your phone and throw that thing in Lake Michigan. Check that, in Lake Monroe. I said Lake Monroe, not Lake Michigan. And the jack around that also comes along with this lack of level of play is as confusing and ridiculous to me, really, as anything else. It's just another layer to a story that nobody wants to hear about.
You're right, and I don't understand it either. But I don't want to lay this all on NIL and the transfer portal and that kind of thing. But I think it's a huge part of the way players today are dealing with stuff. And if you're not playing as much as you want, or you can leave at any time, and you can basically go someplace else and then try to pick it up from there. Well, BS. Your coaching staff is coaching you. If you can't handle that, that's your problem. That's not the university's problem. It's probably for the university and for the coaching staff, because obviously they can't motivate you to get to go out there and do what you're supposed to do. So you've got to do that. And a lot of these guys, I don't think, understand that. And if things aren't going their way, it's very easy to say, well, I'm out of here. And honestly, I'm not saying that this team has done that yet, but man, these last two ball games would indicate that they've got some issues in that area.
Yeah, and evidently nobody's helping them correct that. Now, I will say this. One way that you can do it yourself is by doing it yourself on the floor. That's why this game, Don, holds such a level of importance tonight, because you can't follow up the follow-up with something as you've seen in this past week in Columbus tonight if you're this program. You just can't do it.
No, you're right. You're right, John. I mean, it can't happen again tonight. If that happens again tonight, they will suffer a third straight loss. If it's as significant as the other two have been, this whole program's in trouble. And honestly, I know after the ball game against Illinois this past week that there was screaming and yelling going on in that locker room, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you who it was, but there was some really, really tough things going on in that locker room in the sense of the players getting their butts handed to them in regard to verbal lashing that we haven't probably heard or seen before. And it wasn't just by the head coach. There were others involved in this. So we'll see if it changes anything. I don't know if it will. All we can do is what we see on the floor and get excited about it if it happens. And if it doesn't, then obviously there's going to be something that has to be done to change the situation.
Malik Renew, I know you guys don't get underway until 7 with the pregame and such. I don't know when you find out these type of things, but any expectation there at all, Don?
Well, I saw him working out today, and he's been working out for the last 2 or 3 days now. I don't know if we'll see him tonight for sure. I was told, earlier in the week that we probably wouldn't see him for this ball game, but he didn't look any worse for wear from what I can see. He's got a brace on his knee right now, and it's a different kind of brace, supposedly, I was told by the doctors, and I think that'll help him. But he did look good today when I watched him. Now, of course, I'm not seeing him in a lot of heavy cuts and all those kinds of things situations, so I don't know if he's experiencing any kind of issues in that regard, because I don't think the work that we saw would give you that indication. All I can tell you is that he looked good to me, but it doesn't mean that he will play in this ball game tonight.
Hey, listen, Illinois is a good team, and you saw the frustration toward the end of the game boil over with that.
Yep.
Go down as well. Man, that's Don. That's what teams that are losing and look bad in doing it do. I mean, you get frustrated, and that kind of crap happens at the end of the game. They're very fortunate that, for example, their highest scoring, highest rebounding player didn't get more than really nothing, I guess, that he got from the Big Ten over that too.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, he got tossed out of the ball game, but there was only seconds left in the contest, so he's not suffering a huge penalty. I'm really happy about that because I think Ballo is the one guy that I can say he's playing his butt off and has played his butt off in all of these ball games and just hasn't gotten any reward out of it. But he was very frustrated. I could see it. He was coming in there to make a point that he was the enforcer of this basketball team. I don't know if that was the point he was trying to make. I think it was more frustration than anything else. But he didn't like the fact that the center for Illinois had gotten involved and was putting his finger in Rice's face, and you know what happens in ball games. Sometimes guys lose their temper and do something stupid, and obviously Umar did that, and I think probably regrets it to some degree. But at the same time, it was a frustration type deal.
Yeah, Miles Rice is a guy, when we're kind of talking about the lack of leadership, I thought that with his position and his background that he would have provided something of that nature, or at least something more than what we have seen so far. I know a lot of that's leading by example in how successful you are on the floor, but I thought he would add a lot of that to this team that clearly is searching for it.
Well, I know, and I think Miles is a really good basketball player. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I don't know what his scenario is right now, other than the fact that he's playing pretty hard. He makes an effort. There's no doubt, but it's a combination of things when you've got five players that you rely on out there on the floor, and you're not getting it done, and that boils into frustration as well. And then at some point, you just say, well, there's not much I can do about it. And I'm not saying that Miles should have that kind of attitude, nor does he have that kind of attitude. I don't know. All I know is right now we're kind of seeing that frustration boil over a little bit in a lot of different guys. And Miles was one of them that was involved in that little scuffle because he didn't like the fact that the center for Illinois got in the face of Luke Goody, who obviously was involved in it. And Luke was a teammate of some of these guys on the Illinois team, although not many, because most of the guys that Brad Underwood brought
I think it's about Brad Underwood was about it. Yeah, I think that's his lone connection, yeah.
Exactly. But all I can say is I'm wiping that ball game off my slate, as well as the Iowa ball game, and I'm going to give them another opportunity tonight to kind of turn things around, because that's what they've got to do at this point, and this is a ball club they can do it against. And that's not to say that Ohio State won't give them a battle, because even though they have struggled this year themselves at times, I know that they're coached really hard by Diebler, their new coach, in his first year there, and he was an assistant last year and got him playing pretty well at the end of the season. I think he was 8-3 or something like that, and in the final games of the year for Ohio State after Chris Holtmann was let go. But here's the thing, John. This is a basketball team that's also had their problems this year. I know they're going to come out and they're going to have blood in their eyes because they want to get this thing turned around. And Indiana's got to do exactly the same thing. They got to have that same attitude and that same kind of energy when they come out on the floor tonight.
What's opposite about Ohio State right now is in their last two, they have lost Oregon, Wisconsin, but they have been right there in that game down the stretch. It could have gone either way in both those games, whereas IU, I think we know the situation in the past week in both Iowa City and Bloomington.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. All you got to do is look at Ohio State's record here. Even though they've lost a couple ball games, they've been right up there at the end. I think they lost by just 2 points in their last game. I think 7 points in the previous ball game. This is a team that's very tough. They play hard. And the Thornton kid at the point guard spot is their key guy. He is the head of the snake, as Mike Whitson likes to put it. And there's no question you're going to have to control him to some degree if you're going to win this contest.
So, Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers. 8 o'clock is the tip time tonight. A Friday night Big Ten contest in Columbus, 7 p. Your coverage begins. So who'd you end up getting? I know you guys were, I was listening, you guys were waiting, it seemed, on Tuesday night. Who'd you end up getting after the game?
Nobody.
Okay. Because I thought Eric was going to break out in song and maybe dance or something like that for a little bit.
Well, we were covering as best we could at that point, trying to wait for the emergence of a head coach. He did not show up, but that's not the first coach that's ever done that. So,
how many times has it happened before? I believe I know of one. Right, one time.
Well, it happened a couple of times with Tom Crean. He was pretty upset a couple of times and stayed in the locker room and had his team stay in the locker room with him. And so there were a couple of times we had to wrap up the post-game show without getting the head coach on. This is the first time it's happened with Coach Woodson. So we're going to give him a pass at some point. We've got to at this point because obviously he was as frustrated as anybody.
Yeah. So you got nobody. I thought sure that somebody would come. Nobody ever came. Wow.
No, nobody ever came. And again, this is the first time it's happened. So you always give them a pass when there's obviously this kind of frustration. I get it.
Well, you know my stance on this. You're Don Fisher. All right. You're not me or Jake or Kevin or Swebo. You're Don Fisher. I know you're pissed, but get your ass out there and talk to Don Fisher. That's me. That is me, right? And you know what? I think that's a lot of IU fans would agree with me on that too. All right, get out there.
I agree. I appreciate that, John.
You're not, not any jack around here. So you're the real deal.
Well, hopefully, I hope that doesn't happen again. And we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So 8 o'clock is the tip time. 7 o'clock. I know you got to run here. 93 WIBC, and hopefully we see at the early stages a much different type of effort because that thing got ugly early on Tuesday night down there, Don.
It did. It got ugly early, and you don't want to see that. And this is the second straight ball game that it's pretty much happened this way. And hopefully this thing gets turned around because obviously it's going to be a really long, long season here if it does not.
Yeah, it is. Don, have a great broadcast. Tell Eric hello.
Thank you, John Boy.
All right, buddy. Appreciate you.
You bet. Thanks.
It's Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Effort is what you want to see first, and then you think about winning it. You look at Ohio State, and that's why I mentioned this. Their last two, if you watched them Tuesday night, they were the nightcap on the Peacock, and they hung right in there with Wisconsin. They hung right in there with Oregon. They have lost 3 out of their last 4, and that lone win has been against Minnesota. However, the competition has been good, and they have been right there. And let's just face it, this IU team on Tuesday looked like a team that wasn't ready to do anything against anybody. And that's where you start. Anything against anybody. All right, quick break. We shall return. So the rest of the way, we got 239-1070. If you so desire, some Anything Goes coming up at 6 o'clock, too. Don Fisher, Bobby Riddell. We had Eldridge Recasner a little bit earlier from the Big Ten Network, the former Pac-12 rep, the Washington Hall of Famer. I wanted to get a little West Coast Bureau look into the teams out there, especially considering Purdue gets Oregon coming up tomorrow. He's a former NBAer and was really good earlier. Eldridge Recasner, if you missed that, 1075thefan.com for a podcast. And Jeremiah Johnson was in the middle of a walk-off interview with Miles Turner. And then that, after the game, happened. Is this leaked audio stuff real ever? This is like Legend Z. Leaked audio of Isaiah Stewart trash-talking Miles Turner. You play with Legos, you fruity blankety blank. Is that true? Or is that I don't know what's true anymore, what's AI driven. It says leaked audio. Now, I know that he referenced him playing with Legos after he put 28 right in his eyeball. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Can you imagine? Like here's what's funny. Like the Pistons were pissed last night. They said the Pacers were talking junk in a win. Can you imagine this off the bench, barely in the league knucklehead talking junk to somebody that just put 28 in your eye, in your building, in an 11-point win? Can you imagine the level of jackass that you have to be? Seriously. So they're mad that the Pacers talk junk in a win, but this jackass is talking junk in a loss when he and the starter got absolutely done in by Miles. Is that AI driven or is that real?
It doesn't even seem like it's audio. It seems like it's just lip reading, because I've listened to it a couple of times now and I can't hear anything that what they're saying.
I just saw that within the last hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking junk in a loss. That's like the ultimate loser right there. I don't get it. So the whole talking junk thing happened. When are you supposed to talk junk? Sure as hell not when you lose. And not when you get your ass worked either, like he did. And believe me, they got worked. Career-high 3. 8 in all. So that's where the Pistons think that's when you talk junk is when you lose. When you lose on your home floor by 11. Hilarious. I don't know. Somebody's going to have to teach me this line of thought because I think it's stupid. This kind of comes with the territory of the toilet anyway. All right, quick break. We'll come back with you on the other side. A lot of time for you, really, until 6:20, and the last word coming up later on tonight. Colts news today, by the way. Dennis Allen, according to Albert Breer, was in here to interview for the defensive coordinating job of the Colts. Again, that according to Albert Breer a little bit earlier. If you believe that, quick break, we'll come back. Stay right there, 239-1070 if you so desire. This is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
And calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh, this is Alice in Chains. Just Damn the River. Oh, that's a great song. It's Jerry Cantrell getting down right here. I saw where Jerry Cantrell in February is going to be at the Mural National Center. Cantrell's been on the show before. Cantrell is a big fantasy football guy. And speaking of which, we do have fantasy football winners to announce, and we have bar restocks to hand out, don't we, James? Who do we got?
Yes, we do. So the winner of the actual fantasy football league, that was Vince Okerson,
Vince Okerson, baby. Shout out to Vince.
And in terms of the Pick'em league, I don't think they actually had a name. It was just that ESPN user-generated name, so I don't actually know who it is yet. So if you did win the Pigskin Bracket Challenge, let me see if I can find...
I would really like to get both winners at the end of the month to our tavern tour stop at Workingman's Friend. And then have Brent hand out the bar restock to you at Workingman's Friend. That's my hope. Because, I mean, last year it took, Gilly is an awesome listener, and it took us forever to link up to get our winnings. Finally did. But that is my hope at Workingman's Friend. And that is at the end of this month, too. That's a tavern tour stop. We're going to be back with Becky at Workingman's Friend. I was trying to think. Robin Miller, the late, great Robin Miller, always said, here's the order, double cheeseburger, no middle bun. Well, I can't have any bun now, so I just have to, I can't have cheese. So what if I asked for 2 burgers on a plate with a lump of cottage cheese on top of them? That's it. Would you guys be okay with that? Because that's Protein City for the guy right here. I think that's going to be it. But congratulations to Vince and then whomever won the Pick'em. Good year for everybody around. Hey, also, too, shout out to Daniel Butler yesterday. Daniel Butler showed up, and we're going to do that again, too, from the Mural National Center. Remember that deal that's going on right now at the Mural for so many of those shows deeply discounted? Check out their website today and get in on that. Daniel was outstanding on the show yesterday. Tom's Watch Bar downtown. It was fun. Gina and Lindsay James were a part of the show yesterday, too.
Yeah, the winner of the Pick'em, it is ESPN fan 2269226498, whoever that is.
That's like somebody on X that calls me a jerkwad or something. They got 19 numbers in their name. All you do is carry water for. Yeah, I'm a water carrier, all right. Why don't you love Anthony Richardson? You got to be nice. Get 15 numbers in your name. You're a non-believer. Yeah, not much into that today. You know, I didn't want to mention this a little bit yesterday, and this is out of the viewing area. And we had Chuck Lofton on the show yesterday, who's going to retire after 40 years of just being incredible. It's a legendary career in this market on TV's Chuck Lofton. He's going to retire in June. He was on the show yesterday. But I mentioned when I grew up in Greene County, we got the television stations out of Terre Haute, one of those, WTHI Channel 10 in Terre Haute. And as far back as I can remember, in the 80s, Kevin Orpert and Patrice Dayton, they were a part of Channel 10, and they were unceremoniously pushed out because of layoffs at that television station in Terre Haute. And I wanted to send out, it's funny, I have such a deeply rooted love for Terre Haute. I did reach out to them and said, although we've never met, it feels like I've known you most of my life, which is true because I grew up watching them. back when I was in high school. I think even back with Kevin Orpert when I was in junior high. That's the ultimate impact you've had on so many. I love Terre Haute, and you will always be the fabric of the Wabash Valley. Again, thank you. And that's all I could think of doing, because when you grow up with those people on TV in Terre Haute, and then I go to Indiana State, and you're a part of that. And I have such a deeply rooted love for that community, Vigo County, and certainly such a tremendous part of that, and great assets have been Patrice Dayton and Kevin Orpert, who said their farewells, I believe it was yesterday, on Channel 10 WTHI over in Terre Haute. And my best to both of them on a fantastic career. You wish you could go out the way that you want, but honestly, for any of us, there is no guarantee how all of this will end. Especially in an industry like this and like theirs that is volatile at a moment's notice. You just have no idea. So that's why I choose to go the path that I do. I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to have fun every day. We'll be serious about some stuff, but there's going to be a lot of fun to be had, because I think the alternative sucks. But I wanted to reach out to Kevin Orpert and Patrice Dayton and thank you for being such a big part of my existence, even though I have never met either personally. At Channel 10 WTHI in Terre Haute. All right, 239-1070. A lot to talk about. We've got a little anything goes coming up here after 6 o'clock as well. Give me Ike here on line 1 to start here, James. Hello, Ike. How are you?
Hey, how you doing? I got 2 quick points.
Yes, sir.
The Colts need to go out and hire Rex Ryan if they want to get their defense going.
Rex Ryan, the defensive gurus who you're looking for. Why, Ike?
That's what I want, because we'd be like the 85 Bears in 2025, because we would have a defense so good. I mean, our offense ain't really that bad. I mean, our defense is the worst I've ever seen. If we went after people like Rex Ryan would have us going after people, everybody would come to the game just to watch our defense, get people off the field, 1, 2, 3, just get on out of here. And just let our offense work. And we'd have like 25-7 wins. We'd be winning every week. Second point, the IU Hoosiers, I don't care how hard they play, they can't shoot. And basketball is about shooting. And as long as they got them.
Yeah, they can. They're broke as a joke, Ike. There's no question, yeah.
Mike's been there. They've never had good shooters. And you got to have shooters in basketball, especially in this day and age.
Well, they went out with that specific in mind, did they not? With NIL money, and said we're going to bring in shooters, and the shooters they brought in can't shoot. Yeah.
Well, I don't know where they went and shot for them, but I don't think
yeah, I don't know who evaluated the shooters, but apparently it's somebody that can't shoot.
All
yeah.
I see them doing is stacking up them bricks, and if they keep stacking them up, they're gonna keep getting beat. I don't see nobody on that team that can really shoot the ball. Nobody. They just shoot and miss. That's all they do. So
100% accurate. That is part of the issue, no doubt. And then effort's a major part of it too, because these guys, when it gets tough, man, these guys go away pretty easy.
You can play with all the effort you want. If you can't shoot the ball, then what good does it do?
Well, listen, I think people aren't going to be satisfied. Don't get me wrong, Ike. But at least you can't be half-assed it and standing around. People aren't going to have that for a minute. So
you remember back when Tony Hinkle and Tom Carnegie used to do the games on TV during the tournament? They would be on, and they'd ask Tom Carnegie, or they'd ask Tony Hinkle every week, "Well, Tony, who's going to win the game?" And I said, "Whoever puts the ball through the hoop the most." Yeah. That's what it's all about in basketball. You got.
Hey, man, you're speaking the truth to us right here on this Friday, man. You are.
I'm from Indiana, and I know good well. If Indiana, we know for shooting the daggone ball. So that's what it's all about. And if you can't shoot, then, hey, Mike Woodson better go out and get him some shooters if he wants to stay down there.
Hey, Ike.
They're not going to win without it.
So I've gone through this weight loss transition of 65 pounds down, and I have loved it. The only drawback is my jumper's broke as a joke right now, Ike. It is. My jumper is broken. I don't know what's happened.
Here's some food that's going to give you some strength.
Here's what I blame. I think my sights are off. I need new eyeballs, Ike. I think I need new eyes. I think my sights are a little bit off. Somebody's bent my sides.
You got to quit shooting that three and take it to the hole. If you do that and start going to the bucket.
It used to be effortless, and now I'm running the floor and feeling good, and I get down there, and even wide open jumpers, man, I go, what in the hell is that? It's like as soon as I let go, it's like tin cup, and I go, no, that's not it. What the hell's this?
You got to get out there in the driveway. I know you got a hoop out there. You got to get out there.
Ike, and then what happens, I've got this little tiny brain that I get to deal with here, and I think the frustration preys on this small brain of mine, and then I'm really screwed. I have no idea if I'm coming or going. It's sad.
I can't understand that. You know, everybody from the Hoosier world.
You know, I don't know. Would I rather be skinny jeans wearer or have my jumper back?
Well, you know, I think you want that jumper, but I mean, ain't nothing wrong with being slim and trim. I'm telling you, because I remember I went through a weight loss thing, and I was happy. When I lost all that weight, I was feeling good about myself.
I am too. I'm feeling good right now, Ike. Hey, have a great weekend. Thanks for the call, man.
All right, JMV. You too.
Seriously. My jumper's broke. But it's not the weight loss. My sights are off. Seriously, my vision. When I wake up in the morning, James, this is really sad. I have a magnifying glass that sits next to my bed. And to read on my phone, sometimes I pick up the magnifying glass.
Like an actual...
Yeah.
Like you're a 1920s detective?
Exactly. Or like I burn some ants or something like that if I were out in the yard in the summertime. Yeah. Magnifying glass. Because I can't see anything in the morning.
You get a monocle.
Yeah, like Mr. Peanut. Mr. Peanut and W.C. Fields and me with a monocle. Hey, shout out to the Indy Ignite last night. Another win. And I'm assuming that Schleter treated the entire team to free food at Parks Place Pub up in Fishers. Hey, somebody let me know about that. Because I had said that Matt Schleter, especially, really after every match, but especially after wins, I think everybody on the team has to eat free at Parks Place Pub in Fishers. But another great crowd at the Fishers Event Center. I know a lot of you went. Did you notice that Caitlin Clark was there last night? Awesome. I'm going to tell you what. She is beyond fantastic. And I know that we live in a world of jackassery where anybody is going to try to poke a hole in it and say something bad about it, or explain how she needs to be doing something that she isn't, or just because people are so low down and stupid. But she is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Never been on the show once. I have no reason to say this other than it being the truth. One of the things that people love around here, James, is when the athletes get entwined in the local fabric of just the daily routine around here. When the professional athletes dig on what we dig. I just love that. I love that about Caitlin Clark. She can do whatever she wants. Seriously, she moves the needle not just for the WNBA, but for basketball and really for celebrity personality. She moves such a significant needle, could do whatever she wants. But the embrace around here has just been fantastic. The Indy Ignite game last night is where you can find her. I think her boyfriend's Connor. Is that Connor McCaffrey? Patrick is the player on Butler. Connor is the assistant coach for Butler, I believe.
When do you think they're going to get her out in the pace car for the 500?
When you see the schedule, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because last year, I think the schedule compromised any opportunity.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of that, when are we going to get Doug Bowles to tell us who the hell is going to be Carb Day? Now, it's a little bit too early for that, I guess.
Yeah.
And I have, it's easy to say this with somebody else's checkbook, somebody else's wallet. But can you get Roger to get the crowbar out and like to pry open that checkbook a little bit wider? I've always said this. You're going to be entertained by anything. It's carb day. It's entertainment. Anything. I could get out there and make fart sounds with my armpit. You guys are going to go, hey, that sounds great. You know, that JMV is really talented farting sounds in his armpit. Anything. Because it's just a huge party. But, man, would it be even better? Would it be magnified if you got yourself a kick-ass band in there or bands to, as I like to say, trip that light fantastic. So, yeah, Roger, if you're listening, the higher-ups at the Speedway, can you just pry that checkbook or wallet open a little bit more? The threshold, I think, is around, again, easy for me to say, $350,000. That's a lot of cash right there. But let's be entertaining. I'll dig it anyway. Don't get me wrong. If it's the Gin Blossoms or Soul Asylum or George Thorogood, I'll enjoy it. We'll all enjoy it. But, man, having yourself one hellaciously awesome kick-ass band. Give it a try. And I know in the past, Roger Penske has said, they're here for racing. They're not here. They are there. That's exactly what they're there for. People go to Carb Day, for the most part, outside of maybe a handful, don't give one crap about cars going around out there. They notice that as they're having the party of their year. Let's keep that in mind. Little public service announcement from me to you over there. Just crowbar out, pry that open a little bit more. Quick break. We'll come back. Top of the hour. Anything goes for about 20 minutes. We got you up to the last word on a Friday. Thank you for joining us. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Just a minute. Didn't anybody knock anymore?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Coheed Cambria, number 9-239-1070. Tickets on us. You're welcome. Rock out with your friends and family. Coheed and Cambria. Number 9-239-1070 can go. At top of the hour, anything goes. I did want to give a shout-out to the friend of the show. His dad's a longtime friend of mine, Mark Barnheiser, the head coach at Lafayette Jeff. His son, Brooks Barnheiser, this week joined the 1,000-point club at Northwestern. A little bit different this year with no Boo Buie offensively, but he has been really good and has had a fantastic career at Northwestern. And knowing him basically since he was born, I am incredibly proud of Brooks Barnheiser. The 1,000-point club. He joined that earlier this week at Northwestern. So congratulations. This is from Sean. JMV is a Miles truther since his early days. I feel the joy every time he puts up massive numbers like he did last night. Where are the haters now? Here's what's funny. There are still idiots out there that think that the Pacers would be okay without him and want him traded. Just massive idiots. There are people out there that actually care that he puts together Legos, like that idiot last night, Isaiah Stewart, evidently. Beef stew. And I guess if you're beef stew and you have zero game, can you imagine? The Pistons last night evidently were upset because the Pacers talked junk in a win. So they felt compelled to do the ultimate loser role and talk junk in a loss. Isaiah Stewart talked junk in a loss. Can you imagine? That is such loser mentality. No wonder they're the toilet. Talking stuff in a loss. Talking stuff to the guy that put 28 right in your eyeball. Career high 8 threes made. So you're mad, and that's what's so hilarious about it. You're mad because the Pacers talk junk in a win, and you talk junk in a loss. Just ultimate loser stuff right there. Toilet. Doesn't get any better than that. But yeah, at this point, Sean, I think we kind of understand the angle from those that are either too stupid or anything else that don't understand it. But I'm glad you've been there with me because this has been a small group in the past. But me and you and Greg and Miles' dad, that's about it. That's about it. I'm glad everybody gets to recognize that now. And if you don't, then there's probably no hope for you. You're just really stupid. All right, quick break. We'll come back. We got Anything Goes. 20 minutes plus on the clock. We'll do coming up on the other side. That will lead into the last word. JMV Takeover tomorrow night, 6 until midnight. So much of the 90s we shall cover on the show coming up tomorrow night. That's the JMV Takeover, B105.7. Anything Goes. Other side, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
join his crummy snobatorium, but his whole place sucks. That's right, it sucks.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All the bro country here for the girls. Anything goes. We got about 20 minutes or so before the last word. Dennis Allen in for an interview, according to Albert Breer. We're going to give the love to Mike Chappell, who also had that as well a little bit earlier. Interviewing for the defensive coordinating job for the Colts. Coming up tomorrow, 4:30, Texans-Chiefs. That would be the Chiefs right there. What is it, 8.5-point favorites? That's a lofty number, however. Take the Chiefs, 4:30 tomorrow. At another toilet known as Arrowhead. Commanders-Lions tomorrow night. Lions, 9.5-point favorites. Lions win, Commanders cover. 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Rams-Eagles Sunday afternoon at 3. Eagles 6.5-point favorites. That is a number I believe they do cover. Bills and Ravens. Baltimore 1.5-point favorites. Or check that one. Yeah, 1.5-point favorites. I'm going to go ahead and lay the number. Give me the Ravens on the road in Buffalo coming up on Sunday night. That is your NFL divisional round postseason look. Thank you very much. Hey, JMV, when somebody with 40 numbers in their name sends you something that means they don't use social media and went there just to talk to you because that's where you are. So they made a profile quickly and didn't care about their name. Thank you, Nick. Does it normally mean they want to tell me to blank off or something like that? Because I think that more times than not is the situation. As they're wanting to tell me to blank off. That's why they've done it so hastily. We got some Anything Goes if you guys are ready for it. And look who is here. The lead role going to, from Vanderburgh County, one of Southern Indiana's finest. She is awesome. It is Gritty. Hello, Gritty. How are you?
Great. How are you doing today?
You are choice in Vanderburgh County and the surrounding Evansville area. The Pocket City knows all about the greatness of Gritty.
Great.
What's up?
I have a little secret to tell you, or I guess some shopping advice. I know how you like to get your some of your shirts at Dollar General store.
I do. I love that. V-neck, too. Do you got some V-neck action for me there, too?
Well, they have these things. They're called cheater glasses that you could put on in the morning to be able to see your phone, and they work great.
Okay.
Instead of the magnifying glass, it might be a little.
I'm looking like a clue. I'm trying to find a clue or something like that with the magnifying glass in the morning.
To me.
Yeah, I need new eyeballs. I think I want to get with somebody. I want to do. Will LASIK help me out? You think?
Yeah, it does, but I'm too scared to try it because I like my eyesight, and if they screw it up, what do you do then?
That scares me right there. Does that happen?
Does me too. I don't think it happens much anymore, but it would be my luck that it would.
Well, I find a lot of reasons to try to blame my loss of jumper right now, why it's so broken, and I've come to the conclusion that it's because my sights are a little bit bent, and I need some new eyeballs.
Well, maybe it's because you don't weigh as much anymore, and you're putting too much strength behind your shot.
Well, I may have subtracted a little bit of girth, if you know what I mean, and strength with that.
That's never good.
And I can't get it up there anymore. Maybe that's it. That sounded really bad. I'm glad we're in Anything Goes. That sounded like I was like auditioning for a porno. What? Gritty, it's good to hear from you. You going to get a request in for the 90s tomorrow night?
I will try to do that.
Awesome.
90s aren't my favorite era, but Snoop Dogg or something.
It is so funny. Like the people that listen the most, that are there every weekend, would say the same thing. But when I do the 90s, it is probably the most popular with everybody involved when everybody tries to get in. But I think for the people that are the core listeners to the show, they would rather me do more 80s than anything else.
Yeah, I'm a yacht rock girl.
Yeah, right there with I'm not a yacht rock girl, but I'm a yacht rock dude. Yacht Rock Review, Brown County Music Center, coming up at the end of this month. Grit.
I might have to go do that.
I got another one for you. The Paramount in Anderson, that is on Thursday. So a week from yesterday, Ambrosia, John Ford Coley, and Peter Beckett of Player are going to do all their famous live yacht rock songs at the Paramount in Anderson next Thursday. It is.
Oh, well, that's awesome.
Gritty, good to hear from you. Thanks for the advice on the eyeballs.
Yep, they're cheap too.
Well, I'm all for cheap. I love Dollar General store. I like the Dollar General store that has all the groceries too. I like the bigger
I have
ones.
one of those at the street for me. Oh, Dollar Tree has cheaters for $1. So.
Oh, really? Now they don't have a refrigerated section at the Dollar Tree, do they?
No. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah, probably right. Gritty, have a great weekend. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
Try to enjoy those Hoosiers later on tonight. Bill's on line 1. Anything goes. Hello, Billy.
Yeah, JMV, first time, long time.
Bill, I appreciate first time, long time. Go ahead, sir.
First time, okay. I just wanted to give you props for I think the best interview you made about the Colts was with Rick Venturi the other day.
Yeah,
and I don't know why the Colts haven't reached out to him.
Well, he said he was really honest, and that's exactly what he believes. He doesn't think that they have the right people over there to make the right decision right now, which should be frightening for everybody right there. But that was and thank you too, Bill, by the way.
Yeah,
for what you
really
said.
Love that interview.
But it's so much more about him and the knowledge, the wealth of knowledge that he conveys to everybody out there. I just kind of set the table and he goes, and it's always fantastic. That's what we talked about. That needs to happen on this show more. We need to have him on more, because he was so good when he's on. Yes,
he's good. He's right. Did he used to be the DC at Northwestern University?
He was the head coach at Northwestern.
Oh, he was the head coach.
Yes, he was. Yeah,
he was. Okay, yeah, but he's good. He knows a lot about defense.
Yep. Well, he's worked with some of the finest. I mean, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick. It's been a who's who of those he's worked around over his career. So it's pretty special.
Okay, I got one more thing.
Okay,
James, I'll get off here.
You got it.
I think the Pacers, when they do have problems, it all comes down to rebounding. I can't believe the way they get out rebounded sometimes.
Yeah, I will say this. They have most of the time rebounded better, and they are playing defense at a higher level right now than I thought they could. So I think they are expanding their horizons a little bit in both of those areas. Could they be a better rebounding team? Absolutely. But I think it's also important for them to be a better defensive team. And I think they've made strides in that capacity, that area, Bill, that I didn't think, honestly, they had the capacity of doing.
Yeah, I think they have, too. I mean, they're playing a lot better. Well, I want to meet you sometime on that Bud Light Friday. You going to do any more of them? I love Bud Light.
You come out, and the Bud Lights are on me, buddy. And I tell you what, we are coming up to the end of the month. We're going to be at Workingman's Friend over on the west side.
I used to go there all the time. I'm a West Side guy. I used to go there. I grew up in Speedway.
Well, you join us. It's at the end of the month, a Tavern Tour Stop. I'll remind everybody when it's coming up at the Workingman's Friend. And we'll see you there, Bill.
Okay. Thanks a lot, JMB.
You got it, Bill. Thank you very much. Yeah, Workingman's Friend Tavern Tour Stop, end of the month. Brent Halverson's going to be a blast. And Timmy is up next on Anything Goes. Hello, Timmy.
Hey, John, is it okay to still say Happy New Year?
I think so. Would you have until February, I think?
No doubt, Valentine's Day. Hey, I was going to call you yesterday with the passing of Bob Uecker and trying to tie that together to your show and you know me and my Wisconsin dribble, but I really couldn't think of a good way. But then when you were talking to Don Fisher earlier, I heard what you said about him, getting stood up by Coach Woodson and that you don't stand up Don Fisher. And I'm like, no manager would ever stood up Bob Uecker. And,
right.
When you lose guys like that, it's like, man, we've got some icons, and those guys are all sort of drifting aside. And, it was just pretty cool day for us Milwaukeeans losing. Not cool to lose him, but sad to lose him. But what an amazing career. And we should treasure Don Fisher because I've been here since '92 and been hearing his voice, and I imagine Hoosier fans have been hearing it a lot longer. So just a shout-out to Bob Uecker.
Absolutely iconic. Iconic. And you know what? Sometimes we have such a more deeply rooted appreciation when you no longer have that resource when somebody passes away. And I think that was a lot of us yesterday, because that does get you to go back and go over. Like, there are some things I had forgotten about, those times on Letterman, those times on Carson, those spots that he did there. You remember Mr. Belvedere, and you remember the light beer commercials, and you remember Major League. But there was so much other stuff that we were all reminded of, entertainment value-wise, yesterday made to me his career even more special. And hell, I didn't even know he was a member of the Indianapolis Indians in 1960 until yesterday.
I didn't know that either. I mean, you and I are similar vintage, and we both listen to the radios next to our nightstand, and you listen to Don Fisher call Hoosier basketball, and I listened to Bob Uecker call Brewer baseball. And
that was your rite of passage in the summertime. I mean, you had the radio next to your bed, and, if it was on AM, you could hear the crackling of the static with storms, wherever the storms were across the region, and that's how I felt with Reds baseball in the summertime. That's just what you did.
Yeah, Marty Brenneman, Joe Buck, Harry Carey.
Joe Nuxall, Marty Brenneman for me. And, Timmy, thank you very much for that recollection, man.
See ya.
It's Billy's up next on Anything Goes at 239-1070. Hello, Bill.
Hey, JMV. Good to see you yesterday.
Thank you for coming out.
I got to say one thing about the Wash Bar. That place is awesome.
It is awesome.
I mean, the TVs were exceptional. The happy hour specials, $5 pints. I thought I was in heaven for most.
It was awesome. Do you think we could get the city of Indianapolis to build a bridge over the sewage trench they have right out in front of their front door? I mean, come on, guys.
Well, I kind of feel bad for the owner.
Yeah.
I compliment the owner and everything, but yeah, that is such a mess down there on Illinois Street. But just like everything else, we'll love it when it's better. But
you got that right.
But yesterday it was bad, and I wanted to compliment Lindsay and Gina as well. I was sitting there looking at them, and I channeled my inner Jack Nicholson from the movie Easy Rider, and the only thing I could think of was, man, that's not ground beef. That is USDA prime.
Well, they're okay with that, and you know what? They're cool. I think they would get it too. So
yeah, I think so. They seem to be pretty nice.
No, they're good girls. They're good girls that are fun on the air, and that's what we're looking for. We got to have more than just me droning on for 3 hours when we're on the road. We got to have some fun.
I just wanted to mention one thing on this day in sports history. In 1891. Dr. James Naismith invented the game of basketball in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Wow. That's a big deal right there. Seriously, it is. I love it. You know how much I love basketball.
It is, and he ended up Naismith ended up coaching at the University of Kansas.
Yep.
And he had a losing record, 55-60. But he coached a guy that they named the arena after. He coached Paul Gallen. So Dr. James Naismith. Dr. James Naismith, Gina and Lindsay, icons.
Well done. Thank you, Billy. Have a great weekend.
You do the same.
Justin is up next on Anything Goes. Hello, Justin.
Happy Friday, JMV.
Right back at you, Justin.
Yeah, hey, speaking of good times, man, I'm missing those Blue Fridays in the football talk.
Man, me too, brother. Justin, I miss the whole – I just miss being out. Yesterday was awesome just to be out because I'd gone a week and a half without being out. That's way too damn long.
Yeah, I got caught up in work and couldn't make it down there. I was a little disappointed. So.
Understand. What you got, Justin?
Well, that's kind of the reason I'm calling you. So I made 14 out of the 18 appearances at that, and I'm pretty sure I won that football toss contest. I'm pretty sure I was one of the top 3, and I haven't heard anything from Zink or the radio station.
Well, I'll ask about that because I'm not sure either. That normally takes place in promotions upstairs, but I will put out a feeler about Justin and ask what the hell is going on.
I appreciate that. And then to piggyback off your conversation earlier about Carb Day, there is a great regional band out of Kentucky called Blackstone Cherry. And it's got a little Leonard Skinner Southern rock feel to it, and I think that they would be amazing at Carb Day. one of their most popular songs is Like I Roll. So when you get a chance, give it a listen. And if you got any old influence with old Doug Bowles, tell him to give those guys a listen. I think it'd really draw the people, and I think it'd be very fitting to Carb Day and the environment down there.
Justin, thank you, and I will ask upstairs about your name and where it is as far as the football toss is concerned, okay?
I greatly appreciate it, brother.
You got it, man. Thank you, Justin, right there. Well, anything goes at 239-1070. I have been outspoken about adding a little bit more fundage. I'm going to tell you what, James, to fill up the day in the snake pit with those EDM, those guys are getting expensive. So you're spending a lot of money on race day with EDM. Get going on Carb Day. And again, Roger Penske's angle has always been, well, people come here to watch cars go fast and whatever. There are much more people on Friday that go there just to have themselves a party. That's what matters. So give them something they can remember. And I do. And I've said this before, and it's 100% the truth. You could have anything going on out there as far as parties are concerned, because that's what that is. But, yeah, go big. Go big. Easy for me to say it's somebody else's bank account. But go big. Make a lasting impression. I don't want to sit around and think, well, remember that time with Journey for the 100th? Hey, remember that time with Scott Weiland and Stone Temple Pilots when it rained? Hey, remember that time? I want to talk about hey, this is great. Now, I know Iowa's completely different because they have that grocery store chain up there that pays for all that. But you got to do better. Why not? That's just me. I mean, hell, find somebody else, find a sponsor to pay for it. Like, I'm making all the sense in the world right here. I'm sure I'm just talking right out my rear end. But go big. Daryl's up next. Going to have himself a big weekend, speaking of going big. Hello, Daryl.
How you doing, John?
Lions, what are they, 9.5-point favorites at home against the Commanders?
9.5. It's going to be warm and 70 degrees in Detroit. Every place else it's going to be in the 30s and the 20s.
Hey, Daryl, speaking of Detroit, what the hell's going on with that Pistons group? Why are they so pissy last night?
You know what? I don't even watch Detroit because I don't know. I caught the end of it because after I saw Michigan get their butts kicked.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was surprising with Dusty on the road with Michigan. I mean, that stuff's going to happen, especially at that place, but that was certainly a surprise. What do you think about the Lions-Commanders tomorrow night?
I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. The Lions got to control the run game. The only thing I'm worried about, their starting left tackle is not playing, so they got a rookie out of Boston College that's going to start. But Detroit really likes that guy. He's played once already, did a great job. Now they're just going to have to run the ball and keep the ball away from Washington. I think they win. I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. I think it's going to be a 35-28 score.
Yeah. That's what I said. I thought the Commanders would cover, the Lions would win.
Yeah, it's. I think the upset of the weekend is going to be the Rams beating the Eagles.
Thought about that one too. Yeah.
Stafford's 37 years old and he can still throw it.
Hey, that situation will probably get Nick Sirianni run, I would imagine, right? As a playoff coach, if they lose in that fashion.
The reason I called, I just caught a little bit of it yesterday. You might be putting some together to give away a trip to the Super Bowl.
That's the word. I don't know just yet. I know this. I know that they want to do it for a trip. I don't know actually going to the game, but for the party pregame wise is what we're knocking around idea. Because I'm thinking about trying to get down there and doing a couple of shows from Kyle Kinnett's bullseye parties with the actual players being there. So we're thinking about just being I don't think it's tickets to the game. I think it's kind of the hangout up until that point in time. But we'll see. We've got to meet next week and go over some of it. So.
Well, if you need a private driver to get you down and back, you can, because I'm not drinking, and you can drink all you want.
Well, I need that because last time I went down there, I was an absolute mess, Daryl.
All right, brother. You have a good evening.
You got it. Thank you, Daryl. We'll talk to you tomorrow night, I'm sure, on the JMV Takeover. A mess. I don't think I've ever been as hungover. There was one time when somebody roofied me with, I think somebody, that's what I always said. We were drinking Goldschlager. And I think because I'd never, and it wasn't like I was overwhelmed by it. I mean, all it is mouthwash. And, man, that's awful. Bloomington, Kilroy Sports Bar, back in the 90s. Somebody Goldschlagered me. That doesn't sound good either, does it?
Yeah, that sounds like you're referencing something else.
Is Goldschlager still legit, or do you have to be a douche to drink that?
I don't even know if I've ever heard of it.
You've never heard of Goldschlager?
No.
It's like what Rumplemints used to be. You ever heard of Rumplemints?
I do know Rumplemints.
See, I mean, I grew up in a time when there wasn't a lot of choice. The Rumplemints was it's basically mouthwash.
Says I can buy it, so.
Goldschlager. It's got little flakes of gold floating around in there.
Oh, fancy.
Anybody out there still drink Goldschlager? Man, it got me absolutely. Woo! But New Orleans, when the Colts played Monday night down there, was even worse. Hey, you guys, great week. James, great week out of you, too. We'll get you set for the national title game coming up on Monday. Recap the weekend. Remember, IU Ohio State, 93 WIBC. Pregame show coming up at 7. JMV Takeover tomorrow night at 6. B105.7. The last word, Matt Taylor, KC Valier. Straight at you. Next.